Maybe it isn't them. Right here. Oh no, I was wrong.
Somebody
I didn't know that.
asked for it, like, okay, we're gonna make a plan. So I asked for it today.
That was back in my housing office days. Yes, we had that.
Yeah.
And
That's good. I'm glad that you're telling me because you shouldn't accuse yourself of going to speak.
And
Because that's
you,
essentially harm.
and I would like to think that we're gonna, I would like to, I think I would like to go.
I mean, that was all.
Or even training, I mean, like, there's so many opportunities that are happening.
We should,
No, but I'm not looking.
let's save it for, let's save it, we have to get started, but let's save it.
I would definitely,
Yeah, I definitely would.
Okay, great.
That's my story.
because we have 3 alternates.
Right. Well, it's also
And
special.
also, he's gonna follow me. Remember that, he's gonna follow
Okay, I'm ready.
do we want
Yep.
to,
Good?
can our community?
Okay. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started. First, I'd like to say that our chairperson, Barry Rector, is not able to be here today, so I'll be acting chair. So kid gloves, take it easy, please. All right, let's get started. We have an agenda before us. Do I hear a motion to accept?
Motion to approve the agenda as written?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Noted 4-0, excuse me. And let's see, we're going to consent items. We have the minutes for September 6th, September 10th, June 11th, and June 21st, I believe. Is that correct, Catherine? Okay. Do we have 4 sets of minutes? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair.
Any discussion?
Question. One of these is listed 2016. Is that a mistake?
Gotta be.
Yes, I only have 2018.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure we,
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
calling that one, Judith. That's
Okay.
the July 9th one. Yeah, we're not calling that.
okay.
Okay.
So which ones are we calling?
So we're
again?
calling
It's just the
September, in order, June 11th of 2018, June 21st, 2018, September 6th, 2018, and September 10th, 2018.
Yeah, make a motion to approve.
So I just have one thing. Catherine, I had noted that we weren't,
I can't hear you.
I had noted that Ladora and I were not here for the June meetings, and I was just wondering if you had corrected that.
Okay.
Because we are listed as alternates, but on the June 9 or June 11 and June 21, we were not members yet.
With that
I'll
revision.
I'll make that motion with that change to approve those minutes.
I hear a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 4-0, unanimous. All right, we'll go to A&Rs. Let the board is there any A&Rs that the board would like to discuss? Do you have any?
Yes.
Okay,
Go ahead,
want to
Jim.
call those?
Go ahead, Jim.
I'd like to talk about 8298, just a question.
Okay, Rugged Mori LLC.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, we'll call it. Any others?
Yeah. 8295. 8295 and 8300.
Let's see, one L's,
Yep.
LLC, 3 wires.
Yeah.
Fritz, Judith. Okay, we have 3.
One other. 8298, just for a question. Yeah.
82, and Judith called that. Okay, awesome. So we have 3 that we can put aside. So if I may, I'll list the ones that we're going to ask for a motion for approval. 8296, 7 North Gully Road. 8297, 61 Bartlett Road. 8299, 54 Union Street. 8301, 43 Ocean Ave. 8302, 33 Coffin Street, 8303, 36 Crooked Lane, and that's all. Do I hear a motion
Make
to
that motion
approve?
to endorse those.
Nat made the
Second.
motion. Fritz seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 4-0, unanimous. And now we can go back to Fritz. You're looking at 8295 Lewis B. and Jetty Ames, 113 Walnut Road.
Let me just look here for a second. One question I had, I think Joe's here. Are there any wetlands on this property?
To my knowledge, there's no wetlands on the property, there's wetlands nearby.
Excuse me, Joe, would you mind coming up to the
Yeah.
mic and identifying yourself?
Public hearing, please, but yes.
I am Joe Marklinger, I'm the surveyor who prepared the plan, I live here on Nantucket.
Okay.
Okay, wetlands nearby, but not on the property. Is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay. Then just a question I have on the plan, and maybe I just don't understand it, but can we bring it up here because my brain keeps twisting around? Just the language on the side, it's probably at the top. Yeah, over here on the right-hand side, is there any way to? Maybe I can read it sideways. Yeah, so it says, planning board determines that lots 1 and 2 do not contain areas subject to protection. And then there's a blank line and it says, are required to be excluded. Is there something missing?
I don't know, I don't think so.
Lots 1 and 2 are not do not contain areas subject to protection. And then, is that another sentence?
I honestly don't know.
We don't know.
That might be a wetland issue, that there's no wetland protection issues on the lot. That could be what it means. Usually it says something about zoning,
Well, who did this
but
plan?
that's not it.
Who did the plan?
I did the plan, but I didn't know that there's,
Is there something whited out?
Required to be excluded, is that missing?
I can't remember what the typical note has, I don't know if it's a cut and paste thing.
Yeah, exactly. Could be.
It should be subject to the protection under the Wetlands Protection Act. Should be in the next line, I believe.
What do the other ones say?
I guess I need to know what that says because it says
Well-
that's what we've determined.
Andrew, do you have anything?
That particular note that's been on these plans, we've discussed the fact that the planning board doesn't determine that there's wetlands on these plans.
Correct.
And an A&R plan does not mean that the lots meet zoning. So it means that there is a road that meets one of 3 criterias, and there's adequate linear frontage along that road, which is why this has been recommended for approval. So if there are wetlands that affect, the zoning requires that 90% of a lot have uplands. And that's why that's particularly important. In this case, that's these are 5,000 is the minimum lot size, so it's 90% of the minimum. So there has to be at least 4,500. 4,500.
90%, yeah. What was that one say?
And they're all on the sides.
Right, so the part that's whited out or missing in there, it just says,
Okay.
which are required to be excluded from lot area under the Nantucket zoning bylaw. Oh, that's there.
Yeah, it should be subject to the Wetlands Protection Act.
Which are required, yeah, right.
Yep.
So I don't know if you've made that determination, but again, that's,
Not the purview of us.
and that's not really part of the A and R.
So can we add this terminology
Yeah,
into it and
I can
then
add it on the final, on the plan. that you
subject
sign, yeah.
to the Wetlands Protection Act? Would that satisfy what your concern is, Fritz?
Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't
Mm-hmm.
certifying that there were no wetlands on this property, and I didn't understand what
point.
that.
Judith?
I just wondered if in the review of this particular kind of thing, if there's potentially wetlands, whether, Holly, I don't know if that's something you could note in the staff report, that it's already been through the Concom or something like that, just so,
That's,
That would come after.
they'll get it after we deal with it?
I believe what Andrew was saying, we're not responsible for the
Right, but
determination.
if I heard what Fritz said correctly, it was we have to certify that it's in compliance.
Right.
Isn't that what you said, Fritz?
But wouldn't, by adding the terminology, subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, wouldn't that cover us with our approval, adding that line in?
It may this time, but what I'm wondering about is, this comes up more than in this case, and whether there's a way we can double check, because I can imagine somebody could fail to go ahead and get that reviewed. And I just think if that's what we're signing, I take to heart what Fritz said, that we should be sure that's handled.
Yeah, I think that's good. Future we'll bring that up, and I think if this will suffice for now, we'll add that terminology in and then vote and move on.
So let me just go back.
Mm-hmm.
So this is saying that we are making a determination that lots 1 and 2 do not contain areas subject to the Wetlands Protection Act.
You need to read that further about,
Mr. Chairman? I don't have anything to do with this matter, but I think it
Identify
might be,
yourself,
might be,
Arthur.
might be helpful for me to give a little bit of background on this.
Sorry,
Under the-
Arthur, could you identify yourself? for
I'm
the-
sorry, Arthur
we're on-
Reed.
We're being
Attorney
recorded. Thank
Arthur
you.
Reed. Under the previous version of the bylaw, there was a requirement that the planning board put on the plan that they endorsed a determination as to whether the lots met the zoning requirement of having at least 90% of the minimum lot area be free of state designated wetlands. And that language has been in circulation and has been put on plans endorsed by the planning board since that went into effect in, I think, 1990 or thereabouts. Since then, there's been an amendment, first of all, to take the planning board out of the business of determining anything about wetlands, because, once again, that's the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. And secondly, in addition to excluding state-defined wetlands, to now exclude locally defined wetlands under the Nantucket Wetlands Protection Bylaw. So the result is that a lot now has to have, once again, 90% of the minimum lot area be upland, both under the state and local requirements. That applies to every lot, and that is something to be determined by the Conservation Commission, and if a lot doesn't meet that requirement, it's not a buildable lot. But I think that having this language continued to be placed on plans that go before the planning board creates a great deal of confusion, and I've been trying to encourage surveyors to not put it on the plan anymore. It's not required. It has nothing to do with the current state of the zoning bylaw, and it can create misconceptions both ways as to the status of a lot with regard to wetlands. So I think that just on an ongoing basis in the future, for everybody's protection, the board, the Conservation Commission, applicants, property owners, that language just doesn't have any business being put on plans. My
Thank you.
contribution.
Very helpful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Good job. I guess what I'd like to do is have that language stricken from the approval subject to it being taken off the plan before we sign it.
So right now, it's off the plan.
No,
We're,
the whole thing. I
Oh,
think,
so you
switch
want to
the entire-
substitute, wait it all out?
Yeah.
Okay, that's no problem.
That
Thank
okay?
you.
Okay.
you want to make that?
So I would
Amendment.
move that we approve the A&R for 8295, subject to the condition that the language regarding wetlands on the site plan be removed prior to the time that we sign the plan.
Second.
That okay?
Leslie, Andrew, does that sound appropriate?
Yes,
Okay.
we've advocated for taking this language out for some
The
time.
motion has been made by Fritz, seconded by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's 4-1 unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Judith, 8298,
Sure.
Rugged Maury.
My question was just, there was a reference here about, in the staff report about prior provisions, but I wasn't able to really know what that entailed based on the materials we had.
Andrew?
So, board members, there is a special permit that affects this property, and the proposed lot meets the standards for the A&R endorsement, but there will be additional relief needed from the board to remove that special permit from this portion of the property. And that was something you saw at the last meeting, which is, there's a covenant, this is a covenant special permit.
So my question is in part, will this have to come back yet again to look at that point?
Yes.
Okay,
As a special permit application.
see.
But it, again, it meets the requirement for an A&R, and it's clear that signing that doesn't relieve additional responsibilities.
Okay. Judith, you satisfied?
yes, thank you.
Okay. Would anybody make a motion?
Make a motion to endorse.
Motion has been moved.
Second?
Second by Fritz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Let it be known, 4-0, unanimous approval. Next one, 8300.
That was me, I think.
Yes, the Silent Elves, and that's Fritz, yes.
Yep. The question I had, just related to frontage off Weiler's Way. And again, my standard question is Weiler's Way one of the three ways that meet the definition of street under the bylaw?
So Wires Way is one of our smaller ways that has been in existence for some time. As you can see, it's 13 feet wide. It is a road that was in existence prior to the adoption of subdivision control in 1955. You need to evaluate it in terms of sufficient widths, grades, and construction for the new lot that it's going to serve. The board historically has voted approval not required, and that's not this current board, but past boards have approved that. And this is serving one lot, and there is no longer any property beyond it. So this is the last lot of that very small way. And again, there's no opportunity to widen it beyond. There's some intervening lots between it and New Lane. So
Okay.
it's a small scale, and on the opposite side of the road is a cemetery with no access. So it's we feel it's sufficient in terms of that particular use.
Anyone else on the board?
Anybody else with any questions? Okay, with that explanation, and with the understanding that it meets the frontage requirement, I would move approval.
There's been motion
Second.
made, second by Nat. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, 4-0. Approval. Thank you. And now we're on second dwellings. Is there any comment from the board, any concerns?
I have one I'd like to,
Sure, which number is that?
the first one, 27 Pequot.
Okay,
Don't know about anybody else.
any others? Judith?
No,
Matt?
but we're not
No.
taking up the first one listed until
We'll
we
take
get
that
to
off.
it later.
Correct.
Right, thank you.
So
Okay.
with the removal of 27 Pequot, I'd like to see if we have a motion to approve the second dwellings.
We're continuing the first one, correct?
Yes,
We're
that
just
is considered,
making sure.
sorry.
And the other one is just one, that's not two, okay. So I'll make a motion to approve McDonald for
Well,
9 Grand Ave. Is that the only
No.
one now?
There's
That's-
three.
That's being
That one's-
pulled. That
Further
one's
down
being
is
held
under
later.
Public hearings.
So
Okay, so
we're,
that public
So we're
hearing
jumping-
notice for that one, not
Yeah.
the next one.
So it's the last
Okay.
three, started with
Okay,
Pilgrim.
So we're
sorry.
jumping down
It's
to
hard to tell
Eugenia.
what you've got here. All right.
do you want me to list them?
We should probably just take them one at a time then.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So it's 5 Pilgrim Court, 22 Pinecrest Drive, and 47A Westchester.
Three, right.
Okay,
Do I see, do I hear a motion to approve the three?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. All opposed, 0.
Okay.
4-0 unanimous. And we'll go back to,
After the public hearing.
well, we're going back to 27 Pequot, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
The question that I had, I'm looking at the map and it says that this is 40,000 square foot required and doesn't appear to meet that requirement. So I just had a question about, is there some explanation of that? And that was the first question I had. The second question, at the end of the second paragraph, staff says the site plan as submitted does not meet the requirements of 139-18 and 139-18 and 139-20.1. And I'm just asking what are those?
In bold. The plan needs to be revised to provide the scalar separation between structures. It's not clear. However, with the supplemental information that was provided with the application, you could tell that it is 10 feet, but it should be on the plan that you all endorse on.
Okay,
So that was my reason for asking for a revised plan.
okay.
Okay.
So I guess my single question is just simply the issue of the square footage and the lot size.
Yes, for the record, Don Bracken, Bracken Engineering, we made the application. The zoning summary is 40,000 square feet currently required, but it's a grandfathered lot at the 31,400 square feet.
This is an undersized non-conforming lot
Yeah,
that's already
I
been in
just wanted-
existence.
Yeah, an explanation of that.
Okay,
That's
Okay.
it. Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
great. And you're satisfied with Holly and the 10-foot explanation?
Yep.
Great. Anyone else
Okay.
on the board concerns? No? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Second, motion's been made and seconded. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, 0. 4-1, 4-0, approved. All right. Jump over to previous plans. Okay. Well, first I'd like to open up to the board. Any comments?
I'd just say,
I had a
glad
question.
we brought it back, like we
Oh,
said we were
Westmore.
gonna do, right?
We'll take
It's a
one by
good
one, or we're-
report.
We're just gonna
Yeah.
do one at a time?
Great.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll start with 12-18 Westmore Club, MCD modification. And we bring this back for a review after the year.
Been anything, Andrew, on that?
Is there anyone present
Nothing?
from,
Okay.
I just wanted to say, it looked to me like they were very diligent in trying to follow up on details and were
we have someone here.
all right.
express appreciation for
there he is.
having done that.
Great, well, that's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Chris, would you like to identify yourself for the
I'm sorry, yeah,
record?
Chris Coulter, General Manager of the Westmore Club.
Anything you'd like to add, how the year
No,
went?
I think that the whole process, even though it was long and drawn out for all of you, that I think it created good communication with the neighbors, and I think moving forward that we have a good relationship, and hopefully we can continue to do that. And next spring, provide another report of the to show that we're abiding by the special permit and continue to move forward and work with our neighbors.
Good.
Any other comments?
Any neighbors out here? No?
Chris, just in the interest of people in the past that have been present for this, there was one question that I believe I had brought up with police, any kind of violations. How did the year go? Were there any complaints or any filings with the police that we might be interested
Yeah,
in?
no,
knowing?
and I think if you read the report, there were no filings. There was a misfiling where the police showed up and it was actually Westmore Farm and not Westmore Club. So no, and I followed up with the police department to see if there was anything that I wasn't aware of, and before I provided the report, there was not.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments, concerns from the board?
If you need a motion, I move that we accept the report with appreciation.
Okay.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 4-0. Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to second drawing, 28 Swift Rock Road. First, any comments from the board?
John, I had seen on this one and a couple of others that people seem to be going out and building things without tracking what they agreed to or what was required of them. And there were three, at least I think three of those in this packet, and it made me wonder what else we could be doing to notify someone when they get a permit pulled or something, that they really have to maybe sign something that says, I understand I'm supposed to follow what I committed to. I don't know what it would be, but
I think generally that's a building department. They're going to have an HTC sign off for the permit in order to get issued a CO. Also, the building department will have to sign off on all the applicable.
Well, it seems to me like this is a pattern suggesting you can avoid compliance and ask forgiveness and get clean in the end, and nobody does anything but say that's okay at the end of the day, and that just seems to undercut kind of what the point is. Maybe that's just me, I don't know, but
I can tell you from being in building, it's not always the case, but I understand your point. Andrew, you're something to add?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to acknowledge our staff.
In fact,
I
we
mean,
even noticed.
our staff goes out and inspects these, so they're caught at that point. People make changes in the field. That's totally not uncommon. But when they come in for a CO, our staff, and Holly, thank you for your work on this. She's out there, and when there is a difference, they have to come back in here, and then you evaluate, is it a serious problem or not? So it does, I think we are pretty good at catching these, but if people make the decision to make a field change without coming in, eventually it's going to get caught, so.
and how often do they get told historically that they have to undo whatever they did?
Well, they get caught because their building, their CO doesn't get issued. It leads to other problems that we hear about at the office. People aren't paid. There's all kinds of problems that's caused by this delay. So,
Okay. So you think the delay is enough of a factor that it should get people's attention not to keep doing this?
I do, and I think if they run the risk of you finding that, the changes that they made are not acceptable, so which could lead to other things, right? So
then that could be a ramification, excuse me.
Please, Cam.
That would be a ramification, is that when they come back in, you ask them to comply with the original design versus the adapted in the field design. I'm just thinking back to one we had that resulted in a stacked parking situation. Granted, it was for a private home, but nonetheless, it was not as good a result as the original design that had been approved. I'm just wondering if that's...
Well, I'm sure they risk the not approval coming back and not rectifying what they've
So as long
made a
as
change.
everyone's understanding
Right.
that. I didn't understand that.
Are you
Thanks.
satisfied, Judah?
Just a question.
Sure.
And maybe this is for Holly, but is the, what's in your handwritten notes?
So it says, I'm just trying to figure out what was installed differently, how the parking was different.
Okay.
Because yours says retaining wall parking installed differently. So for a correction, are we talking about changing a retaining wall?
If you see the plan that was approved,
Yeah.
down here, you can see the configuration, and I can tell why it was done in the field. If you look at these photos, this is how they had it constructed because of the topography, so it's different. You can see on the first as-built they gave me, this is the issue. It's not constructed as the original approval, as well as you can see on the final as-built that was provided to you all to approve. They also included parking over here, which was it's additional parking, but it was not on the original approval that you all approved.
This is housekeeping almost. Pretty close.
It's up to you all to determine. Yes,
Well, that's
this would be
huge.
something that staff could.
Does anybody have an
possibly
issue
do.
with the additional parking places?
But it was twofold in this regards. They constructed it a little bit differently. Sorry, I keep on bouncing all over the place, but as you can see, it's not parallel with this property line. It's hilly right there. As well as they did not have the parking over here which they had in the field. So it was twofold. So that's up to you all to decide on whether or not this revised plan is sufficient, which is the as-built.
Oh, I see.
It looks like they altered the plan because they weren't able to meet the retaining wall section with the 2 parking places. So they made it a little smaller and added 2 to compensate for the 2 that they lost.
I actually drove in there. I mean, it's pretty big.
Okay.
Just a little bit different.
Are there any concerns other than what we discussed?
No, I mean, this is a gigantic lot.
It's huge.
I mean, I don't even know what we're.
Well, then make a motion.
It's a good. I mean, I think the most important thing is here we're not the punishing board, we're the planning board, and sometimes we do have to punish. But this time, I think Andrew said it's important. Once you get to that, Nantucket being just about the hottest place to build anything in the country, you're not going to get away with it. I mean, you're going to get away with it for maybe 9 months, 10 months, and then you get to that last 2 or 3 things you got to do, you're not going to get it. So this is what happens.
We're holding the CO on
Yeah,
this.
I mean, that's a big
Well,
deal.
good.
Banks are involved. I mean, it's not a joke. So we don't need any more rules. We need just to acknowledge that we have enough rules to catch a little diddly thing like this, and it gets fixed.
Great.
So I
Okay.
move to endorse and say that, make a motion to say that this is acceptable
With the
with the
revised site
revised
plan.
site plan.
Great.
Second.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Do I hear all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, we have it unanimous, 4-0. Next, secondary dwellings, 56A Hooper Farm Road and 56B Hooper Farm Road.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, no.
Any discussion? Is that,
Move approval?
okay, we have a, Andrew, did you have anything? No?
No, I think it's a better, it's a
better
it's a better
plan,
result.
right?
Great.
Yeah,
There's been a motion.
yeah. I'll make a second to that.
Nat is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? 4-0. Next, Sandpiper Place 1.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we are basically this item and then the 26A Evergreen, 28A Evergreen, 28B sort of subsets of the main issue here. In Sandpiper Place 1 and the other permits for Richmond, basically there's an agreement to do site plan reviews on each of the lots as they come in. The decision was written to allow the board to do the site plan review or to designate staff. So you haven't designated any staff yet. If you do designate staff, which is what our recommendation would be, we can handle the review of them. Or if you'd prefer to review each of the lots as they come in, you can do it that way. So that's up to you all on what you want to do.
Well, board, or are
Andrew,
you
can you-
comfortable with
Yeah.
leaving it to staff?
I'm comfortable with it, but can we just go back over this one more time, Andrew? Is this, which part of, I can't
Okay.
keep track of every single one of them.
Right.
Exactly where we are.
There's a lot of
Sorry.
them.
These three are on Evergreen
Evergreen
Way,
side?
and you can
Okay.
see that it's the three outline report lots, which are 906,
Okay.
907,
yeah,
908.
Got it.
And then there are individual lots throughout. When we discussed this, when this plan was approved, the idea was that the staff was going to review this
Yep.
and take care of it. But again,
Are
if you
these the
all-
ones that the people are building their own house?
Pretty much, yes.
Okay, that was my real question. Okay. So I'm okay with that. That
So
was
is
a while
there
ago.
a motion for, to recommend staff to review and approve?
Question on that.
Yes.
When you said we haven't authorized that, do you mean we should say Leslie will do it, Andrew will do it, or Holly will do it? Or are you asking us to say the planning director may do it
Or
delegate it? Okay.
or designees.
Then to make a motion would be that, it also, how broad is that authorization, just as to this particular set of projects or buildings in this area, or how general do you want the authorization to be?
It would be for Sandpiper Place 1 and 2.
Okay, move that for Sandpiper Place 1 and 2, that we delegate to the planning director or his designated staff the responsibility for reviewing and approving lot configuration plans in the future.
Okay, motion's been made
Second.
and seconded. Nat, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? 4-0 unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, moving down the line. Secondary dwelling and tertiary dwelling for Stephen Welch.
Oh, wait, no.
No.
Oh, did I skip?
Yep.
Yep. So
That-
with that approval, even though you just designated it to staff, we have 3 applications that, of course, we don't want to hold up through the permitting process.
Move to approve the applications currently pending with the understanding that those be reviewed by the planning director or designated staff.
Thank you. Is that
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
Motion
Second.
seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? 4-0 approval. Are you happy, Holly?
Is that good, Holly?
That
Thank
just
you.
helps people out.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. Secondary dwelling, tertiary dwelling, Stephen Welch.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to move this to the public hearing.
But yeah, I
portion.
see a note. You're right. I was going to say that, move to public hearing, so we'll skip over that and get back. 58-18 Harbor Fuel, MCD, endorsing the final plans. And I understand there will be an update at the meeting. Yes, Mr. Fredericks. Identify yourself for the
Certainly.
record.
Mr. Chairman, Dave Fredericks, on behalf of Harbor Fuel. The,
Let it be also noted that Nat is recusing himself.
the MCD for Harbor Fuel, we would request that be put off until maybe a February meeting. We're expecting plans middle of December, and so just to clear it out, if we could move it to the first week in February, that would give us time to review the plans and come back.
Okay, any other questions?
Move to continue this matter until the February planning board meeting, February 2019.
Okay, is
Thank you.
that okay? Fritz?
That's fine.
Okay, motion has been made and
Second.
seconded.
Sorry.
And you-
all
you-
those in favor?
Third.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, 3-0 with Nat recusing. Continue to the February meeting. Next, 7823 White Hart Lane subdivision. There's a release for the security of 5,000.
Move approval of the release, 5,000.
Second.
There's been a motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, 4-0. Thank you. 8074 Beverly Court. Form J.
Move
Satisfying
approval.
condition. Staff recommends release.
There we
Okay.
go. Oh,
There's been a motion made for approval.
Second.
Not seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, 4-0 unanimous. 8089 Alexander Lane subdivision, 24 Pacamo Road. Form J.
I'll make a motion to approve that release.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed. 4-0 in favor. 2 down, 1 to go. 8158 Sophie's Way, 21 Pilgrim. Escrow release. $594.97. Any concerns?
Move approval.
Move approval. So I hear second. Motion's made and seconded. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. Approved. 8224 Verney Road subdivision.
Move
Extension
approval of the
request.
extension.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, 0. 4-0. 8267 Whitewell Lane subdivision. Protective covenants. Okay, any concerns?
Move approval of this request.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All's opposed, 0. 4-0.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I
sir.
apologize. I made a mistake. What we were looking to move, and it's further in the agenda, is the open item related to the car wash. The signing of the MCD, what we were looking to do is move that to the December 11th meeting. We had a very productive meeting with the engineer today, and we'll have something ready for the December 11th meeting, so I apologize. I misspoke.
Andrew, do I need to open that back up, or can we just make the amendment to the?
You can make an amendment.
Okay, we'll just move that we make amendment to December 11th.
Second.
This is 5818?
Correct, Harbor Fuel MCD.
Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, 0. 4-0.
Thank you.
It is December 10th, yeah.
Okay.
One more try.
Last time I
Okay.
listened to you. Okay, well,
Move that we,
one more time, please
as
the charm.
to item 5818,
Dave,
move
get
that
away your
this be continued until I'm just going to say the December 2018 Planning Board meeting.
That's
So if it
pretty
changes,
general.
we could handle it.
Okay, motion been made, seconded. Second. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, 0. Thank you. All right, now we'll move to public hearing. Continue. Valero subdivision, 7716. Is there anyone here to represent?
Good evening, Dan Malloy, Site Design Engineering. We've been brought on board by the Valero family to finish the project. So we're here before you tonight. I understand, obviously, this has been going on a very long time. Some of the board members I don't think have even seen or heard this project as of yet. There's an action deadline which is pending, I believe, in a couple of weeks. We've just been brought on recently, so we haven't been able to prepare anything to show you tonight. So we're asking for another extension, which I know you've got a lot of these, and I understand that. I would ask if the board's willing to consider it for a 6-month extension, to give us time to prepare the revised plans, bring them to you. It also has to be renoticed, so we need time to get legal ads out, butter notifications again as well. I am prepared to come back to you with a December meeting, but that won't give us enough time to do notifications to all the butters. So I'd ask the board if you'd consider another extension. I'm happy to come in at every meeting and give you an update if needed, but given we were just brought on board, we were not able to prepare something for tonight.
Questions, Judy?
When you say 6 months, do you prefer May or June?
May or June makes no difference. I'm only suggesting 6 months to give us time to get the notifications out, come back before you, work out any decisions. It could be shorter, whether if you want to extend it
Move we
again
continue
later.
this until May 2019 Planning Board meeting?
Before we make that motion,
Just a question for staff. Is there any, obviously, two of us don't know anything about this. So I guess just the question, was there quite a bit of discussion or things submitted in the past? And if so, is there a difference between continuing it versus just having it, whatever it is, without prejudice so it could be brought back? Is there any difference?
Well, yes, and the board had quite a discussion about this a year ago and said, and gave an extensive, I believe it was a 1-year extension, was it not?
I believe it was.
And the board at that time said, that's the last time we're going to do this. There's a zoning freeze matter in play here. I think that there's no, the property used to be in the RC2 zoning district. It was changed to the CN district, I believe.
CN, I believe, right.
The applicants can file under that, can refile the plan and renotice the abutters. It's been, I think 2015 was the last time we had a hearing on this, so I think the board has been very generous in granting these extensions. And I think the clear message, at least, I don't know if you all were here, but was there would be no further extension. There was an expectation the work would be done during that time.
And I think, if my memory serves correctly, I've been on this, and I do recall that. This has been going on since, I think, 2013, when it was initially filed, or 2014. And last year, we were asked to give a 6-month. We were very generous to give a 12-month, but we made it very, very clear that we weren't going to issue another extension. And just for Judith's and Fritz's benefit, their willingness to extend it 6 months, they weren't privy to this when it existed, and we had discussed this. There has been a zoning freeze on this RC2, and it allows protection by continuing this for an extended period of years, up to 5 years now, with the protection under that RC2. I don't know. I, for one, am not really interested in giving another extension. It was very clear that we had to come here, and I understand your position where you're just being brought in on the last 24th hour, but I'm sorry, that's not your fault. There should have been something done and performed prior to this over the last 12 months. So there's my position, but I'll leave it up to the board.
Let me withdraw the motion.
Okay.
I have a question. Andrew, can they, could we grant an extension with with them, I guess I would say, with their agreement to file their, whatever they're gonna file with the CN? I know that they get the zoning freeze, I get that. But as far as, it would be, I think that would be a gesture that would sort of work, at least for me, if they did it to, under CN. Would that be possible? Or does they still have to resubmit and start all over, or? We're trying to eliminate some of the costs, aren't we, too, as well? Not just the zoning freeze, but some of the.
Well, the board can waive certain fees. I mean, obviously, this has to be the abutters need to be updated on this.
And everything, right? I mean, this goes back to the original moving everything and building a supermarket. I mean, this is 100 years ago compared to what's going on in Nantucket right this minute. You know what I mean, Dan? And I agree. You're in a weird position.
The whole thing has to no matter if the board should consider anything, it has to be renoticed. That's an automatic renotice to the papers. No matter if the board grants any form of an extension, it has to be renoticed. If we doesn't grant an extension, it's withdrawn, and something else is filed, it gets renoticed. So there's a notice no matter which direction it goes. The only question is, if there's no extension, or if there is an extension with a condition of something related to CN, then I'm not sure if there's any real benefit to an extension at that point, because it's really coming back to the same thing. So it's only it's either, I think at the end of the day, it's either there's some form of an extension to grant them whatever time you may be comfortable with, or there isn't. I don't know that there's a way to condition it. Other than timeframes or deadlines that would accomplish what you're looking for.
The thing is, Dan, right? God, I hate saying this stuff. Here I am, going against something. Okay, the RC2. I mean, you understand. what we've been trying to do for the last, whatever, 10 years, 11.
Right.
And, you know, that's one of the more positive things that we've done. At least no one's ever really complained about getting rid of RC2, although occasionally, but not too much. And to freeze RC, I mean, freezing, say, you know, R10 versus something else is different. This is a different thing, freezing RC2 versus one of our tailored zoning districts that they've worked really hard to create, especially in this area now compared to when this was first applied.
Right.
We didn't have Richmond yet. I mean, we did, but not what you see today, obviously. And so, this is 5 years ago is like 10, with this. I mean, other things that we've given waivers to, I mean, that one out in Coffin's out there, I think that's like 15 years, but it never changed zoning. Nothing really changed substantially. It was just other reasons. It really didn't matter.
Right. I mean,
This is a different animal.
one of the zoning change, I'm assuming with the RC2 getting is a lot of it is use as well,
Yes.
trying to get some of those heavy industrial uses out of certain districts.
Yeah.
I could see that being a condition of some extension.
That's what my next question was
I
gonna
can't
be.
name what those uses are
Yeah.
off the top of my head, but I know that's
I mean,
a
what if
concern,
we,
including the density.
have you talked to staff about this, privately about this whole zone?
No, we've gone through it. I mean, you're talking RC2 to, I think it was CN.
Yeah.
Or, it's a big difference.
It is a big difference.
So it's really, I don't know that there's a way to have a middle ground
Yeah.
without going through line by line of different restrictions, which I'm not equipped to do tonight.
Yeah.
So either, unfortunately, and I don't like this position either, either
Yeah.
we need to ask for we've asked for an extension, we either get one for some time frame to have to come back to discuss what the board's looking for, or we don't. There's really, I mean, even if it were for a few weeks, we could go back to the December meeting with the definitive information. And then you could make it's really up to the board. There's not much I can offer you
Yeah.
until we can dive into this thing and really see what we can do with it.
Andrew, would it work to give them 1 month and say, come in, talk to you, and say, what can we do with RC2 that would work as far as getting rid of a bunch of different stuff that's allowed?
Mr. Chairman, I can't recommend this. I mean, I think there's a clear option to, there was a clear instruction to have this done over a year ago and to have this work done.
Yeah.
And I think that the applicant is free to file a subdivision plan under the zoning that town meeting has put in place, or if they want to pursue another option, such as a residential option, there's a zoning district for that. And I think that people would, and I think you would be open to hear a different residential type option as well. But I think you all are sitting in a position to evaluate. I think the keeping this frozen gives more flexibility to the property owner, and I understand that, and maybe why they would prefer that. But again, I think the instructions from the board were clear a year ago, and I think it's hard for you to do your job if we don't know. One of the things that we debated was, what is the standard for the road? Is it going to be for commercial use? Is it going to be for residential use? You don't know, because the freeze is that open-ended. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm not trying to say anything negative about Dan, but to not come in with some sort of idea, again, after a lot of discussion, and I think a lot of generosity on the part of the board is, I think that, again, the applicant is free to employ Dan and come in with a subdivision plan that meets one of the zoning districts that we have.
Well,
In other words, you're saying, sorry.
No,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted one
Speak
more
before
quick
I
thing.
open it up.
That was a new point you just made that didn't get said yet. Even an option of coming in for another zoning change, again, for this property is an option too, that I didn't really think of that, but that makes a lot of sense too, because there are other zoning districts that could work here as well.
Right.
Okay, that's an interesting thought.
So it's a public hearing. I'd like to hear from anyone else in the audience that'd like to say something. If not, I'd like
Move
hear
to
a motion.
close the public hearing.
Motion's been made,
Second.
seconded. All in favor? Close?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 0. Any other discussion on that? Judith?
To Andrew, what would the process be for them if they had to come in and request a different rezoning? Would it have to go to town meeting?
Yes.
And if they haven't already put together a citizen petition, it would have to be subject to the review process we agreed upon lately about when we authorize that, except this is a little different because it's dealing with the freeze, right? So
Well,
that's a little complication maybe.
right, if there is if the applicants wish to pursue a residential application of equivalent density of the current RC2, except for the 40-foot wide lots and some of that, R5 is your closest
Right.
relation to that.
Yep.
So a zoning article would have to be crafted, which it could, to zone all or a portion of this property into R5. It would need you to support that, or R5 limited is another option. And there's still time to get that moving forward. It doesn't have to, it can be then, through the public hearing process, we have time until pretty much March, right, to refine that. So
Thank you.
you can do a broad article if that's, again, it's not clear, it hasn't been clear to me, maybe it's clear to some of you or to Dan, what the importance of freezing that provision is, if it's to keep options open or.
Their intent is just long-term planning for options. I can't give you anything more specific than that.
5 years is long-term.
Yes.
So I guess I'm looking for advice from Mr. Vorse. Is it our understanding that we're either going to give an extension or we're going to vote to deny based on lack of response?
Well, right, you've closed the hearing, so either you grant them some sort of an extension or you take a vote to deny the matter for lack of, response, and then we move on from there.
Okay.
I'd make that latter motion that we deny the extension.
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm voting in favor of it.
Unanimous 4-0 to deny. Next one, 8213 Old South Road Limited Partnership. And you're,
You have to recuse me, too.
and that's recusing. This is not a special, okay. Anybody here? Yes.
Good evening, Dan Malloy, Dave Fredericks here for the applicants. So at the last meeting, if the board recalls, there were a few questions on some of the lot uses, what's proposed in here. Given again, this is an area where there is a zoning change pending. So what we've provided to you is in writing what we're looking to do. So in the front lot, we're looking to restrict that to a residential commercial type use, similar to what the future zoning is going to look like. What we've offered is for the first lot, not to allow a primary dwelling. Any residential uses would be an apartment style or something within a commercial building, like employee housing, something to that effect. And then with the remaining 3 lots, restricting those to residential use only. Essentially what that does is it puts in place what the future zoning change is proposed to be. We're effectively restricting it into place through this restriction. So we're offering the restrictions which would eventually come in the future. The lots, as far as we know right now, will comply with the future zoning change in terms of area and frontage, so we're not looking for any kind of future grandfathering on lot configuration. The other question that came up was to do with sidewalks. One or the other, suggestion was made that we could build a sidewalk across our frontage and kind of in combination with what the future plans are for that route. That's an option we could do. I would suggest, if the board would entertain it, that we contribute towards that cause. Only because of sometimes the timing of these things, if we build our portion and the rest of it doesn't come along until some future date, we've got 100 feet of sidewalk to nowhere kind of scenario. So we've made a suggestion as to what that would look like. Historically, the board has asked for donations per dwelling unit. So that's what we've offered as an option to address that question. The third question was to do with the abutters on the west side of the property. It was Valero's. We have spoken to them. The family at this point is not looking to do anything. Maybe someday in the future, so we're happy to work with them. If at some point in the future they want to do something and want access to the road, I think what the board has done historically is add conditions to the approval, essentially stating that if an abutter wants to access the road, that we'll work with them to try to come to some economic terms to allow them access, so you're not getting two parallel roads. That's the extent of the new information. Ed Pesci will be reviewing this. He's reviewed it once already. So we expect him to be able to finish his review shortly. I don't expect any issues with that. We don't have any new information for the board if you have any questions. I'm sorry, I was Santos next door. I got caught up the last one. Sorry about that.
Fritz?
Just in your letter? Whose letter? Yeah. In the letter, it refers to the planning board is reviewing this property for potential zoning change. Is that the case? Is that one of the ones that you had on the list? And is that specifically in response to this application or generally?
It's presently RC2.
So the property's currently in RC2, so we would have been proposing this, but when they first came in with their preliminary plan, we asked the applicant if they would be cooperative with the zoning change, and they said that they would.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of both.
Yes, Andrew.
One question about the sidewalks. So you proposed 2,000 per new dwelling. What's your proposal for the new commercial buildings?
Typically it's per dwelling unit. So, and that's would be throughout the subdivision. So I don't know. I guess if it's a commercial building, if it's an apartment or one or two apartments upstairs or employee housing, I guess the question would be, how would you want to define that if it's still a unit? If it's per dwelling unit, each, say, apartment would count as one.
Mr. Chairman, I think that we would expect a significantly greater amount than 2,000 for those commercial buildings. So I don't have a number handy here, but 2,000 is typically the number we apply to a residential building. So a commercial building that normally, constructs this, I think we would need to talk about that number.
Andrew, would it be an option to, once we agreed on the number, to tie it to, say, something like $3,000 or $4,000 per square foot of building rounded to the nearest? Something we wouldn't be opposed to finding a solution with you.
Sure.
So I'm not sure, do you want to refer to staff recommendation for the monetary value of this?
I don't know if the board's ready to close the hearing on that, but before it does, that's a topic we need to discuss. So if you're closing it tonight, we need to come up with a number, but if did you mention you want to continue this?
I think we would like to try to close it if possible. If it's something that needs work, then we're willing to wait another week or 2 weeks.
Fritz?
Just had questions I'm not sure what meeting this was, last meeting? Last time we were talking about this, I think you made the comment that waivers will be requested.
Yes, there's waivers requested for the right-of-way width, I believe the roadway width. There's a few other minor ones, I believe. Interior sidewalk, I believe, was waived.
Okay. So those were included in the letter?
The waivers were already part of the original application. I can
okay.
pull those out someplace if you'd like.
I interpret it as when you're saying that, meaning will be requested in the future. You're saying
no.
we're already there.
Yeah, there was Waivers were originally requested with the application.
Gotcha, okay. Not new,
We're
not
not
additional.
requesting any new ones.
Yeah,
no.
okay, that's what I wanted to clarify.
So is there any kind of site plan, Holly, that you have for this?
Not into additional to what you've already seen.
Okay. Cam, you were going to say
I
something?
just have a quick question. I'm sure the answer is no. But I was wondering what your interest would be in creating one of the smaller lots into an affordable housing lot.
We expect that this is going to be largely used as employee housing for the members of Harbor Fuel and Bunker Corp. Or Island Gas and Yates in the family. So really the purpose of this is to alleviate the pressure on our business.
Okay.
Okay, nothing else from staff, board? Try to open this. Anybody in the audience, public hearing, wish to comment? That, can you hear a motion, close?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Motion is made and second to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 0-3-0. Any discussion on this, Fritz? No? Judith?
No, I was just going to ask, when is it that our alternates get to step in and fill an empty place here? They may be
Special
wondering
permit,
that.
that's
Special
coming up.
permit,
There are
okay.
a couple coming up, but not on this one.
All right.
This is a subdivision.
I would ask, Andrew, if I try to state some formulation about sidewalks, can you correct me if okay. So I would move that we approve the subdivision application as previously submitted with the addition of the following requirements. That rezoning of lot 18 to the CN district and lots 15 to 17 to the R5 district is to be part of the amended application. And that provided that the applicant reaches an agreeable amount to be
Contribution.
determined for sidewalks and bike paths based on square footage of the commercial property as is appropriate in the judgment of the planning director or designated staff. Is that
Can
okay?
Work with that, Andrew?
That's fine.
Motion's been made.
Second?
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, 0-3-0 passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say to thank both the presenters and to the staff for working out the ideas about the CN and the residential change, because I think that's really going to be helpful for everybody to have clarity on that. And I know Mr. Molloy would have wished he had that for the prior matter as well, but good job on this. Thank you.
Next one we have 3418 Act Natural Inc., 1719 Spearhead Road, and representation application for the applicant.
For the applicant, Don Bracken, Bracken Engineering. I'm also here with representatives from Act Natural. I realize this project was originally submitted back in May and continued on and on up until now. Hopefully, we're going to start gaining some traction. So I want to give you an update. We did submit a modified special permit application on Friday to be heard at the meeting on December 10th. It was modified to include a special permit for major commercial development and also for a special permit for more than one driveway opening on the property. We'd be happy to go through the plans and do a presentation right now, or wait until the next meeting. I'll leave that up to you. The other thing that we want to discuss tonight, it's my understanding that final license or approval is several months away through the Board of Selectmen. That it may not, it's going to be up to the planning board whether or not we can proceed with the special permit process or whether or not a special permit can be issued prior to that. We obviously would like to go forward with the special permit review and site plan review the MCD components, review the driveways. There's a lot of work left to do on the project, including geotechnical studies and further design plans and that sort of thing while we're waiting for the process to unfold. Obviously, getting through this process would give us the confidence to keep moving forward with those project aspects. So I guess we're here for discussion to get the board's opinion on what they think, and when we come back in a month, whether we bring the whole team, if this is gonna be, how this is gonna play out, based on this interpretation.
Okay, Andrew, would you like to comment? Or?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think that it's been re-advertised to reflect the MCD in the second driveway. So I don't think the board should get too much into this discussion yet. Our advice, at least from town council, I mean, it's up to the board, but and again, is the permit for a recreational now, or is it for medical and recreational?
I'll defer it to Michael Sullivan. Do you want to answer that?
Hi, Mike Sullivan, Act Natural. So when we originally started the process back in May, we were following exactly what the Green Lady did, which was apply for medical, and then from there apply for recreational. So we started down that track originally. Since then, a lot has changed over time as far as what the select board is requiring. Since then, it went on to a checklist, and we followed everything on that. And concurrently, we are applying for both medical and rec. The way it works at the state level, the CCC and the DPH, you kind of have to do it simultaneously to start with medical and then the rec. So we currently have both applications in the process at this point, if that helps.
And Mr. Chairman, through you, could I ask, so the selectmen have not yet given you a letter of non-opposition, is that correct?
So correct. We've been waiting for the letter of non-opposition since, we've had our application in for a while. The request was to wait for special town meeting for the vote, which we saw will be now 2. And now we're going to go through a process, which will be voted on the 28th, about an RFQ process. So we're ready to apply there and hopefully get our letter there.
Okay.
And move forward.
I see an action deadline of 12:30. Is there any thought to continuing this? We have a meeting before that on 12:10. We could discuss and
12:30,
open
maybe
it.
I was mistaken. Is it 12? I thought it was 12:10.
Or I think we said
The action
December 12th.
deadline is 12:30.
12:30,
Oh,
but
okay.
their next meeting is on 12:10.
Mhm.
And just to get a little bit more prepared, or we can have some partial discussion now, but I'm just wondering, with the other things that you have out, letter of non-opposition, et cetera, do you want to try and group everything into one discussion instead of bringing it up now and later?
I think it would be better to do it all at the same time. And the attorney couldn't make it here tonight, so I'm sure he'll be here and he'll answer a lot more questions than I can on those regards.
Okay. Yes,
A
Judith.
question to Mr. Force. Do I remember correctly that we had previously concluded not to take these up until the select board had acted on them? Did I imagine that, or was?
No, that is correct, because the board could spend a lot of time on these and then only to find out that the selectmen have not granted it, and then it's all for naught,
So to just clarify, when you say, you mentioned the 28th, is that the select board meeting where you expect this to be heard?
The select board meeting on the 28th is going to hopefully approve the RFQ process, which would be the final, RFQ will be decided upon, and then we'll be able to apply officially.
I see, so they wouldn't be acting on your application, they'd be setting up the parameters of how to do that.
Correct.
Well, I don't think we can act tonight. I think if there's people here who've come out to speak, maybe we should open the public
it up for
hearing
discussion.
and hear from them, but then continue this. But just with that understanding in mind, Andrew, I'm sorry, I'm still a little confused about, do you have any sense about their timeline in acting on things? Because I think this was much more ambiguous when you all first came in, and I think we're much clearer now on what their expectation is. So it seems it'd be too bad to have you feel like you have to come back in December if, in fact, their period of review is going to go into the spring, in which case we have to worry about the deadline, what that means and whether it can be modified.
Well, you're absolutely correct. This has been emerging because originally there wasn't an RFP process that was introduced by the selectmen after. So it has been a little bit of a moving target here. I think by the December meeting, we'll have a better idea of what's, I mean, again, I haven't seen the final RFQ process, and I think between now and then, we'll check back in with town council and see if we should proceed ahead.
I think we have a little time. Well, we have an action deadline of 12:30, so we would grant an extension, or we'd vote to grant an extension. And I'm just leery about having open discussions now, and then having to come back a month, 2 months, and all the discussions that we had will be changed and forgotten. We did have some changes at the special town meeting with things, now that's incorporated into the recreational as opposed to just having the medical, with the 500 to the 2,000 feet. So I think it would be prudent to continue, but also grant an extension so you're not worried about the action deadline.
The select board did talk about having a sunset clause on this, so when the RFQ is open, they will have a relatively short time to close it that they've discussed to wrap this up fairly quickly. So that's been stated in the paper and by the board. So I don't think it's going to go on and on and on. I think at this point they're going to, figure out where we're at and vote.
So would it be prudent to have a continuation right now to the December meeting, and at that time grant an extension?
If required.
If required, yeah.
In January, you want to give them a
one
little
step at a
further?
time.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we could give them January
makes
just to
sense.
kind of make them feel better. And also this, if there's a timing issue, Andrew, I mean, we have special meeting issue things sometimes. I don't know if that's where this rises to, but it sounds like it could be.
Well, remember, the applicant needs to give us the extension, which we then accept. And I think, obviously, we've been willing to extend the deadline
Okay.
to allow this other process to go through.
Right.
But, it may make sense. They've been held up quite a bit as this process has emerged, and maybe, the board may want to just start, I guess, after December, after it's been properly advertised, to start digging into the MCD.
Yeah.
It would still all have to be contingent upon the selectmen issuing, the various approvals and everything else that they need, so.
So it sounds like we just really want to simplify, continue until the next December meeting on December 10th, and at that time, we can do whatever we want to grant extension.
You'll get an
Question
update.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The only question I would have is that if there are members of the public going to keep on coming back to every monthly meeting then thinking that we might talk about this, and we're just,
I mean,
should we just say make it January or something so that we don't, the public knows when they can come back?
We have already advertised it for December, so there's been a renotice
okay.
that's already out, so.
Okay.
Okay, Holly?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, through you, to the applicant, the application that we did receive, I just want to clarify, did not indicate the recreational component. So if that's what you're asking for, we need to have that indicated on the application. So.
It's kind of a chicken and the egg. You got to get your community host agreement to go back to the DPH and the CCC to get to that next step. So other towns have done it differently. Other towns have let this planning board side go through, and then, we understand that, and we're originally trying to follow the same path as Green Lady, but now it's changed a little bit because we can't get through the planning board without the RFQ, but we do have everything lined up and are ready to move forward.
Okay, motion to continue
Yeah,
to
definitely.
December?
Make that motion.
Okay. motion-
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed, 4-0, approved. Continue to
December?
December 10th.
Yeah. Okay. Is this, did we continue this? I'm confused on this too.
Next one, 65-18 Mid-Island Fuel and Auto Wash, 43 Sparks Ave.
Right, I'm gonna recuse again.
Anyone here for the applicant? Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Fredericks.
this was the original intention, to move until February. So I would ask that it be continued till February.
Okay. There's been a request and motion moved to February
Second, or first, or do you first? Oh, okay,
Oh,
I'm just not getting it.
okay.
Fritz?
First.
Matt is recusing himself. There's been a motion
Just-
made to continue this until February.
Okay, I just had a question. This says action deadline? Is there?
This is, we're on,
No,
you're saying if the applicant's asking for it, is that in
oh,
effect
do we have to
requesting
grant
to
an
extend it?
extension if there's
Okay.
an action deadline for 12/9
Okay.
without continuing it?
And
Correct.
they've indicated they'll extend through the end of March.
That's fine.
Okay,
So with that.
with
what
the
are you looking for
extension?
me? A second?
A second.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to grant a continuance until March of 2019. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All's opposed? 3-0 with Nat recusing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one, 8293 Marion Stanton and James Giffen, Somerset Road. Anyone here for the applicant? Yes.
Thank you. For the applicant, Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors. The applicant being Somerset Nominee Trust, who through a probate proceeding is owners are Mary Ann Stanton and James Giffen. Mary Ann is seated behind me tonight. James is away on business, but his wife Corinne is in the back of the audience tonight also. This is a Form B approval required subdivision filing for division of a tract of land located on the easterly side of Somerset Road. It's approximately 2.7 acres in size, located in the R20 zoning district. Property has been in the Giffen family for some time. As many of you know, both Mary Ann and Jim are the children of Tom Giffen, who resided in this location here at 14 Somerset Road. This 14 Somerset Road is an existing lot that was created through an A&R process. It is a lot that fronts on Somerset Road and is an existing lot conforming to the R20 zoning standards. The application before you is for the creation of a conventional subdivision roadway, if you will, 40-foot right-of-way off of Somerset Road with a standard L-type turnaround or turnout based on the subdivision regulations templates. The application itself depicts 4 new lots, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I believe the lot numbers aren't labeled that way, but I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, and 4, which all have frontage off of the newly created subdivision road. They all comply with regard to area, which is 20,000 square feet, frontage, which is 75 square feet, and there is a bordering vegetated wetland located along the westerly boundary of the property, and the 2 lots that are adjacent to, or in some cases contain wetlands, all meet the requisite 90% upland requirement in the R20 zoning district. So that would mean that you would need 18,000 square feet, and they all are at or exceed that with regard to the lot area. The subdivision has been filed under essentially what we consider the rural road alternative component of the bylaw. So while it is a by right subdivision, the rural road alternative does require us to ask for waivers and build a less restrictive and intensive subdivision with regard to infrastructure. By that I mean we're proposing in this case a 16-foot wide, and Holly, if I could go maybe to one of the other drawings. If we keep on going here, I guess we'll start right here. So this is a 16-foot wide gravel roadway, again with the L-shaped template, which will service the 4 lots, 1, 2, 3, and 4. It will connect to the existing Somerset Road. Somerset Road, in this area of Somerset Road, is an old county layout that was never accepted. So this section of Somerset Road is essentially, Somerset Road in this area is a private road. To the north is where the limit of the actual county layout of Somerset Road ends. It ended at what was the paved section of Somerset Road to the north. Since the time that area had been paved, this area now has been paved up to about this point here, but this is still private in the entire section of the subdivision, actually private all the way down to the Meadow View Road or Meadow Drive, Friendship Lane intersection, which is further to the south. The property itself is essentially abutted by holdings of the Giffen family, Giffen or Stanton family. Mary Ann's house is here. Mary Ann owns this property. This parcel here was recently sold from Mary Ann's daughter and is now in another entity which is not part of the family. All this area here is owned and controlled by the family. Buzz Polchinski up in the northern section here, and then another entity along the northerly side here. So for the most part, the subdivision is bounded by family members. The subject parcel itself is not located in a flood zone. It's not located in any land mapped under the Mass Endangered Species Act. The application that you see before you will require a submittal to the Conservation Commission for work within their buffer zone. There'll be no direct work in the wetland, no discharge of any stormwater into the wetland, but it would be a buffer zone filing with the Conservation Commission. As part of the state regulation, the subdivision was filed with the town clerk, the planning board, and also the Board of Health, although no comment was received from the Board of Health as the subject parcel is completely in the sewer district, and the lots themselves would be completely serviced by town sewer. So no on-site septic. We're looking at a sewer line and sewer services to all the existing lots. Holly, if I could maybe move to is that my utility plan? Yeah, we'll go right to that one, I guess. Next one, actually, Holly. Yeah, we'll go to that one. Thank you. So the infrastructure for the lot itself would be a sewer line within what we're calling Bittersweet Lane, a water line in Bittersweet Lane, and then we'd be providing underground telephone cable and electric in Bittersweet Lane. All the lots, again, would be connected to town water and town sewer. This does require us to construct a sewer line in Somerset Road, which would go from the subdivision southerly and connect into the manhole that was recently placed at the intersection of Meadow View and Friendship as part of the ongoing sewer expansion project that's going on and currently being overseen by the Nantucket Sewer Department. So we're extending the sewer in Somerset Road, a private road, to the manhole at the intersection of Friendship. The lots themselves would all have access off of Bittersweet Lane, driveways to each having dwellings on each of the particular lots. The plan that you showed, I've just shown for the purposes of this plan, just to give a sense of the size and scale of the lots. I think these are 30 by 50 foot boxes, which are just shown as approximate locations for a particular dwelling on the lot. We would be asking to have the lots have the ability to have both a primary and secondary dwelling. Would be willing to restrict to no tertiaries if the board feels that that's fit. The family is not necessarily considering the tertiaries. We're just looking for primary and secondary dwellings on the 20,000 square foot lots. R20 zone allows 12.5% ground cover, and obviously would conform to any type of ground cover proposal for each of the lots. So we're not developing the lots at these points. At this point, this plan is simply to create the lots and create the road and infrastructure to service the lots. The drainage component will be completely held on site. We did soil testing along the roadway component. What we're proposing is a grass swale, water quality swale to the southerly side of the gravel roadway with an infiltration component on either end to the east and to the west. There'll be an infiltration component. So no discharge to the wetland. It'll be an infiltration component with a water quality swale built into the subdivision itself. We will be required to do we control the land to the north. We will do some brush clearing in this area to create a better sightline component at this corner of Somerset Road. So there'll be some clearing on this property here to create a better sightline. There's an existing utility pole here, which would be left in place, and the telephone electric cable would be serviced off of that existing utility pole. This property here, which I believe is 16 Somerset Road, currently has a driveway that comes out onto Somerset Road in this location. Our proposed roadway is here. I've spoken to the current owner of this property that recently purchased the property, and what our intention here is to connect his driveway into the subdivision roadway to avoid this double kind of in and out, coming in and out of the subdivision. He's amenable to that, and would have no issue with us connecting. We have no issue with us connecting this component into that area right there. For some of the members who have not approved a subdivision under the rural road alternative, so just to give you a kind of a brief synopsis of that, that essentially asks us, we ask to waive certain items with regard to the subdivision control law. And that would be, number one, a landscape plan. The intent would be that the road would be a 16-foot wide gravel road. The lots would have, particular landscaping, but we're not proposing any type of landscaping or type of street trees within the road layout itself. I've asked for waiver of sidewalks, waiver of bicycle paths, waiver of street lights, curbings and berms, and because it's a gravel road component, driveway aprons. Other than that, again, conventional subdivision with regard to the layout of the roadway and the turnaround itself. The current proposal has been submitted to Ed Pesci through staff. We have also submitted independently to DPW, Wannacomet Water Company, and the fire department, in which we've sought input from each one of those departments also. At this point, we have not received a full review from any of those entities, so we will be asking tonight for a continuance with regard to come back and then hopefully at the next meeting have a full review by Mr. Pesci. Have had some preliminary, and also at David Gray at the sewer department also. Prior to the subdivision being designed, we actually did have conversations with the DPW and the sewer department with regard to the proposal. I failed to mention that this proposal that you see before you was actually developed from a preliminary plan that came before this board and was approved in concept by this board previously. So the plan that you see before you, again, there's some new members on the board, but this was in, I believe, February of this year, in which we received preliminary plan approval for the general concept of the rural road alternative and the general location of the roadway and infrastructure. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Corinne is here, Mary Ann is here, and we'll leave it to the board.
Start, anybody? Matt?
Okay, what's that? No, it's great job, Paul. I see what you've done. You couldn't get those 20,000 square foot lots to be a little oversized because of that rear lot. You kind of had to make the other one that big because of the wetlands.
Correct.
So you didn't have any extra dirt to kind of plug into the other three.
No, but they're conforming lots. So
no.
yeah.
I meant for just,
Yeah.
what I'm saying. When it's a place like this, a lot of them end up that way.
Yeah.
So what about, do you have to put a lift station or are you going to get gravity?
No, this works gravity.
It does?
Yes, works gravity.
That's the first thing I thought of. Well,
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. In fact, this works gravity. It'll give us the ability actually to get, because Tom's house here was pumped to the sewer line, which goes to the north.
Yeah.
And then 16, Marion, they're all on pumps here. Those will all be, the pumps will be eliminated and we'll tie in gravity.
Have you had coordinated review any of this? Or that's coming later, right? Anything that you're already tying?
Oh, no, we've already, this plan has been reviewed originally and discussions have been had with David Gray at the sewer department.
That's what I mean.
But again, the plan that you see before you has officially been submitted to David Gray, DPW, and also Wannacomet.
So, okay.
So, no, I mean, this plan here as of a few weeks ago. Yeah. And also to Wannacomet Water Company, because we're in a DEP Zone 2, we're in the public wellhead recharge, so it's also being reviewed by the water company.
Right.
And we're extending, essentially what we're doing is we're taking the water main that is in Somerset, we're putting a new water main in this, and we're actually putting a hydrant. We've actually put a hydrant at the end of this road also.
Yeah.
that would basically service the subdivision.
So you're doing improvements theoretically that for yourself, but you have to do it to get it to happen. And so that's helping the town.
Yeah, the water is available to us. The sewer, now, we do have to run the sewer, we have to
Yeah,
extend
you
the
have to
sewer
make
down
the whole line.
Somerset,
Yeah.
which we now have sewer in Somerset, which is going to go by,
Three or four
Barrett
more.
property.
There's quite a few.
Barrett
hookups.
property to the west. After we get past here, I think all we have is the cemetery after Mary Ann's house, so.
So you got to run a 10-inch line probably.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure what's shown on there, but it's a good, I think it might be 8.
Okay.
I don't know what we have there, but.
No, this is good. I'm glad you explained the rural road alternative because that fits into some of the stuff we've been discussing over the last couple meetings in regards to some other matters.
I hate to refer to it as a family subdivision,
No,
if you will,
but I
you know what I mean? I don't want
understand.
to get
No.
locked into that component,
No.
but that's essentially, we're trying to just keep this, for many of you know the area, it's a rural area. In between now, actually, in the next meeting, if you will, the road has actually been staked, and it's been, the only way we could get in there, it's so thick. I mean, we staked the center line of the road, and we clear cut a line up there so we could get in and do our testing. You see the test pits are here. We stopped at the Concom jurisdiction because we didn't go any further than that, but it is, you can go out there and see it, it is visible, and it's staked in the field.
Yeah. The only thing I'm going to bring up, and somebody else is probably going to say it, so I'll just bring it up now. The paving of Somerset, Friendship's gigantic pond, that's nothing to do with this application or anyone else. That has been that way since 1988. But this layout issue that you brought up earlier you brought it up. That's not many people know that it wasn't ever officially a road taken, etc. There's been a lot of issues with that. I just wish there was a way to get some easements from the Barretts possibly to get this to a reasonable. It's got to get fixed someday. I mean, this is like the boulevard
Yep.
that just we're pretending isn't getting used or it doesn't need to be fixed. Now we're fixing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I measured
just don't
Somerset
know
Road
what
again
they-
tonight. It's
I just don't
12 feet
want-
wide.
I just don't want this, not trying to burden this because this is, they have every right to do this, and I'm glad they're doing it. And I just hope that that's something that can be part of this at some point in time, moving in the right direction with that.
I know, I mean, we have done, on behalf of the town, actually, a full survey of Somerset. Andrew's had that. I know Andrew's been working, whether with the Barretts or whether, the Stantons and so forth. I mean, there is a plan,
Plenty of
that's
land
for that
to just
entire
all
area.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it for me right now.
Anyone else? Judith? Fritz? Question for you, Paul. When you're looking at the 1,500 square foot envelope, building envelope, and I know it's an approximate, and I know you could go larger, are you also referring, you were saying you didn't want to limit it to just a single, you said you wanted to leave it open for second dwellings. Are you looking for the 1,500 to be a total combined of main and second?
No, we want our 12.5% of ground cover in the R20, primary dwelling, secondary dwelling, willing to limit it to no tertiary.
Okay.
Again, this was just a concept. I mean, just
Okay.
to show generally kind of
Just
where driveways may
clarification.
go. And yeah.
And I understand, well, we would still need to wait, obviously, for engineering review from Mr. Pesci, and also from fire, police, sewer, et cetera. So I guess
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
through you, I do have a couple questions. Normally, when there's a request for waivers of a lot of these things, the minimum that we look for is at least gradually acquiring the easements in the existing road. And I'm wondering if that's a possibility. And perhaps they don't have to answer now, but I think that at the next meeting, that Somerset Road is a priority road by the Roads and Right-of-Way Committee to establish as public, and typically we do ask for those type of easements along any particular subdivision. Number two is, I'm assuming that there's no further connection. There's a big wetland at the end of this road, but Blackberry Nominee Trust land will have frontage on this. Is the long-term plan that would be access through Bittersweet Lane as well?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, that's Mary, this is,
Oh,
this
it
is all
is?
controlled by Mary Ann.
Okay.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes.
So that will be an additional lot that will be on this particular subdivision?
Maybe, well, not on this, but maybe eventually.
That's currently a lot that's accessed off of actually Somerset. So Mary Ann's house is here.
Right.
This is all controlled by Mary Ann.
Right.
This is actually all controlled by that family here too, so.
Right. It's just in the planning board's rules and regulations, you all need to think about future potential access points and, you know, how the decision is written. So
And there is no potential to go.
I know there's
no,
nothing
that way, yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the distance is along there from your benchmark survey disc to the end.
I mean, that's 75 inch, so I'd probably say it's, 125 if I had to guess. That's
So
that's 150 from here to here.
Right.
I'd have to say it's probably 125. I don't think there's two. I don't think there's 150 there, but.
So in the future, it could be an additional lot or a roadway extension. I mean, I think that just has to be clear that the lots that are shown, it's limited unless you maybe return to the board for a future evaluation. Because again, the board's responsibility is to look at other land that may access this road. And that's currently not shown as connecting right now. You have a drainage structure in front of it, but if that is a possibility, we need to just have an idea on that.
Okay.
And Paul, just another question with the sewer connections going from the pump to the gravity fed. And my question is really just in reference to number 16 that is not in the family. You're going to propose to open that up, the new bittersweet driveway access, and also any kind of connections or that would need to be made. Is that going to be at your expense?
No, we would provide the sewer line that comes down Somerset. We would provide stubs for all abutter. Any abutter would the sewer department's going to require us to provide a sewer stub to those properties. It would be then up to them to make the connection.
Okay. Any other board questions before I open it up? No? Okay, it's a public hearing. Any discussion or from the public that wishes to speak? No?
But we need to continue it.
Continue.
So
Make a
move
motion.
to continue until next month. Is that what you want
Yes.
December?
I would expect we'd have all our reviews by
Right,
then, yes.
December 2018 meeting.
Great.
Yeah, I'll
Motion
second
made
it.
and second by Nat. All those in favor continuing to December? Aye.
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 All those opposed? 0.
I just want to say, I think it's a great design. It's a pleasure to see something so well thought out and carefully done, and so good job.
Great. So we'll continue at the December meeting.
Thank you.
4-0. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Next one, 8294, Christopher and Linda Meredith, 1 Wirrow Lane. Anyone here to speak for the applicant? Yes.
My name's Chris Meredith, and I'm here with my wife, Linda. And we just are looking to get the restriction of subdivision on our property lifted like our neighbors. All three of us in this subdivision have agreed to lift a waiver that we signed, a restriction that we signed in 1991 when we first bought the property. And Jack and Mary Beth, who were on the front property, did this a couple of years ago, and now we're looking for the same relief, and I think Jacques and Joan Zamiki will also do it on the back end too. We just wanted to have that restriction that was written in the deed to be lifted. We have a cottage that was we built for my mother originally as a secondary dwelling that's already got access to Wirrow Lane. And so when we're not really sure what we're going to do. We've been thinking about doing a covenant, and we were hoping that would go into the affordable housing. Do covenants get registered in the affordable housing right now, or is that still kind of a gray area?
Well, it would have to be a covenant, Mr. Chairman, through you, that's 80% or less. The standard covenant now goes up to 150%. so
Right.
of income. So
Right.
anything above 80 and below 150 is basically is a moderate income affordable housing, but it does not count on our shy
It
list.
won't go into the town affordable stuff?
No, it's still
Yeah.
needed housing, but it does not count on the shy list.
Okay.
Which is a subsidized housing inventory.
Okay. So what we're looking, because we don't really know, we've had a couple of plans drawn up to subdivide half of the property and sell the front cottage or covenant the front cottage, but we don't have any plans drawn up. We were just looking, before we even did anything or got anybody over there to do anything, we'd need to have the restriction that was written in the deed to subdividing the land. And we're not looking to build a new house. We're just looking to draw a new property line to actually sell our cottage. So, and the only way we can do that is to get that, that deed restriction lifted.
I just for clarification, are we talking about a restriction that was in an original subdivision plan?
Yeah.
Which I understood, but they're also, the applicant's talking about a deed restriction. So they're also, I noticed in the homeowners association, there is a restriction, but is there actually a deed restriction?
It's not a deed restriction. It's a subdivision restriction,
Right.
which is carried forward into their homeowners association, and this particular property was rezoned. So at the time of the adoption of this, there wasn't an opportunity to redivide the property. So it has since been rezoned by town meeting, and
Right.
that's really the expectation. The property owners have been in to the board before, so.
So
Would the restriction normally expire in 30 years for 2021?
No.
No.
No,
Base
a
day.
private deed restriction, not enforceable by the town and not part of the, basically the planning board's covenants live on. A private deed restriction is something entirely different, so. And
Okay, so we can change the restriction, and then the homeowners association has the ability to change their bylaws
consistent with our
in,
change.
for future development. I mean, future
Correct.
owners.
Right.
Okay.
Judith, you were going to say something?
I was just going to ask, as I reviewed the file, it sounded like the reason stated for the original restriction had something to do with gravel roads.
I'm sorry, I didn't
I'm
hear
sorry.
that.
I think what was in the packet, it sounded like the reason for the original restrictions was because there were gravel roads and there was not a desire to have further growth with that kind of a road situation. Is that still the way the road, are you all happy with the roads? Is there any road issue here?
No, we already got the approval for a driveway to the secondary dwelling that we built. So we're not planning on building another road into Warrow Lane. It's already there for for our secondary dwelling. We're just kind of looking for a way to be able to stay here and afford to live here. And we just retired, so
Right.
it's the property's getting a little bit too big for us. So we're just exploring our options, but we can't do anything unless we have that lifted. And our neighbors did it this, I guess, 2 years ago when they got rezoned to R40. And so we got rezoned last year. So we're just looking to lift that thing so we're just all legal with it. But we're not planning on building anything new. We just want to divide the property so we can maybe get the house into a covenant.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do we need any evidence from the other members of the homeowners association that they're willing to do this?
Yeah.
Before we go ahead and do it?
Would we just make that a
Or make that as a condition?
Yeah, condition.
I think it's worth noting that as he's stated that the other property there, this is a small road, and the earlier property owners had that released, and I believe all the owners signed off on that. There's really only three owners, essentially, right? There's the Splains, and they've already signed that off and have done an intra-family exchange or division. the Meredith, and then at the end of the road is property that has not been rezoned, so it's not subject to any further division yet, unless and until it's rezoned. So, really, we're talking about this particular property, and it's exactly consistent with what we've already done. So, the property, the homeowners association, I believe, is in favor of this. They already granted it. I believe you all signed off on the
Yes.
splains, I believe, right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure we weren't doing something and then finding out that we had no real evidence that the neighbors were agreeable to this.
Right.
Okay, it's a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Hearing none.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to close. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 0, 4-0. We still
Move
have to vote.
to provide the requested relief by removing that requirement from the zoning regulations as applied here.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 0, 4-0. Approved. Thank you. Next before us, 77-18, Amy Gifford and John L. Beans, 19 Cynthia Lane. Cam is asked to sit in the public as a citizen. Anyone here for the applicant? Yes.
I just got here. Good evening, Jessie Brescia for the applicant. There's a plan that's proposed, and I believe that this one is the most recent. The only change from the one that was originally submitted is that the driveway where it intersects with the road has been dimensioned, whereas it was not, I think, in the original submission. It's a secondary lot subdivision proposal or request for special permit. We need a waiver from the interior lot line setback because the existing dwellings are not going to meet the setback requirements. I'm not sure. Hang on, let me pull up the plan. I need glasses. I've got to get a bigger version of the plan. Hang on. Currently, it's 6.7 feet from the interior lot line to each of the existing houses. And that's all the space there is. We would need a waiver. I believe that under zoning, it's a 10-foot setback. So we would need the waiver of that. Otherwise, I believe the lots as proposed comply with the requirements of the secondary lot subdivision. They do have a shared driveway. The parking spot, as you see, parking spot number 3 is a half on each of the lots. There'd be an easement to deal with that as well. And that's the parking spot that would be for the front house. There's one parking spot up front, and then it's P3 on the plan would be for the front house. And then parking spots 1 and 2 in the bottom right corner are the spots that would be used by the rear house.
Yes, Fritz.
I see the site plan and then I look at the photo of the lot, and I don't know, is the photo of the lot a staff edition?
Yes, it's our 2014 aerials, I think. We don't have them updated right now.
Okay, so I look at the photo of that we were provided, and the photo of the lot as delineated looks smaller than what you're showing on this plan. So in other words, what I'm looking at as a photo wouldn't,
Doesn't include the driveway.
the driveway easement, is that an easement from
It's recorded.
another property owner?
Correct. With the neighbor, it's an easement shared by both, and it's
There you go.
it's
Oh,
recorded.
okay. Okay, I got it, okay.
Also, the lot lines shown on the aerials are
Okay.
notoriously bad.
So the easement's from another owner,
That's
got
for
it,
GIS.
or another lot.
Andrew, do you have?
I do, Mr. Chairman. So the current driveway is not located within the 12-foot wide access easement now. It looks like it goes outside of it. You can see where the dash line is. It looks like the 12-foot access easement is sort of up against the edge of the building. I'm just wondering if you have an easement for that portion that goes onto the adjoining lot owned by, it looks like White.
Yeah, I mean, there's an easement on record. I think the dashed line shows the outline, I think, of the easement area, and I think the hard line shows the actual. Is that?
Right. So
I believe, Joe Marklinger, I believe that bottom dash line, it says 100 PL or something like that.
Mhm.
The furthest to the south on the plan. That's the easement, that's the joint easement
Area or
for the people to get on the other lot and for us. So we have that as an existing driveway easement.
Okay, because I'm just looking at the plan and I see where it says end of 12-foot easement, and then there's sort of that dash dot line that looks like it's close up against the house.
Yeah, that's what we're using for access.
So are you?
As far as an easement is concerned, yeah.
But
Right.
that's on our property.
That's on our property.
No, I understand that. So will you be reconstructing that easement? Because it looks, if the hard line that comes across,
Mhm.
which it looks like that is the property line, that the existing access to the back P1, P2 goes on to the adjoining property.
Correct.
And we do have an easement for that. Isn't that the existing dashed line on the bottom of the property is the edge of the easement, existing easement on the neighbor's property?
Right.
Okay, so there's the 12-foot access and then an additional easement with
Correct.
a dash line.
That's an existing easement, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And the driveways are within that existing dirt.
Okay. And my second question is about, I guess, parking spot P4. Is that's going to come across the existing
Well, actually,
sidewalk?
if you go back to the photograph, it might help. Okay.
Yeah.
I see that it looks like there's a truck in a different orientation there.
Long way.
Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, what I was trying to do, I didn't discuss this with Jesse or the applicant, was to get it, see how they've sort of captured the front yard with the truck, and it's kind of a mess.
Yep.
But if we just designated one and had it facing the right way, there's enough room. It doesn't look like it there, but there's enough room for the one parking place. If they could kind of clean up that other part.
Right.
You know, because I didn't like that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I think that there should be a little bit more detail about what, because I think that is important to get that front area cleaned up and organized, and so it's not like a front yard just
Yeah,
sprawled
the messes we've
with
seen up
cars.
there,
Yeah. So anyway, that's my comment on that.
Anyone else? You're none. I'd like to open it up to the public. Anyone? Please.
I was wondering if we could just
Identify yourself.
Campbell Sutton, 15 Appleton Road. I'm just wondering if we could go back to the aerial photograph you just had. I'd like to sort of comment on maybe why that truck is parked as it is. As many of you know, this is a very dense living situation in all of Cynthia Lane. I would say for almost every bedroom, it's 2 cars, not 1, for the number of people that actually live there. In a duplex, you can have a need for as many as 8 cars. So I would propose that the reason the truck is parked like that is because it can have parking along that sidewalk and still get out by backing into the existing driveway right there. I'm just concerned that, one of my concerns is that there's not enough parking in this area for cars today, and this is give or take the off-season, if you will, and the way the cars park along each side all the way down and around the cul-de-sac there makes it very difficult for any car to navigate in an early morning to get out to go to work or what have you. So that's what I'm looking at there. And the way that they have, I believe they have 2 parking spaces for this rear house. Could I ask how many bedrooms are in that house? In the rear house?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, I'm going to assume there's at least 2. Just. So essentially, because I think it's a 2-story, right?
It's a 2-story.
The one in the back is a 2-story.
They're both 2 stories.
So in other words, once again, what we're going to see is the entire lot become a driveway in order to facilitate the number of cars in reality, not in theory, like 1 car per bedroom. So anyway, that's just one of my concerns with that whole road. I know it's a private road, and so may not be something that's appropriate to comment on, but I'm going to anyway. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none? What is the board's pleasure?
Motion to close, but we still need to talk.
Sure. There's been a motion made to close.
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? 4 to 1 to close. Okay. You know what? This is a special permit, so I'd like to activate Stephen. Is this it?
Can I just, Mr. Chairman, can I just ask Andrew a couple more questions? I'm just kind of I'm looking at staff's comments. Holly, or I'm not sure who to ask yet, but where it says number 3, Holly, does that even apply? Is that, I don't think that really applies to this particular application. There's no space left for anything here.
No, there isn't, but it's a secondary residential lot, and that's part of that.
Right.
section in the
No,
bylaw.
I know the boilerplate language. I get that, but that's technically not gonna mean anything.
Mr. Chairman, the,
Could be turned out sometime.
Oh, if there was a basement.
Sure.
Okay.
tertiary.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it. Right.
or perhaps, a
Going
tertiary
up.
dwelling could not be allowed considering the density that
Yeah,
you
no,
already
I
have.
would definitely agree with that.
I will say the tertiary on this lot would be subject to the bedroom limitation too, which again,
Okay,
we would have to know
there
the
you go.
bedrooms too.
So they can only have total of 7 or 8.
It's a formula, and I believe it's
If you have a
So there's one.
yeah.
They wouldn't get the parking for that.
Okay.
It's 1 bedroom per 1,000, I believe. So anyway,
Andrew, when you brought up that driving the truck in that way, so you want to try to get them to sort of delineate that space so that they turn left off the entrance. So they have to build a apron like we would require if this was a new subdivision now. And then you want the vehicle to sort of turn left and go into that space and not be using the front the way it.
well, that's one option. The way Joe has shown it is fine, provided a proper driveway easement is built out to the road. And there's materials that are proposed, like a hard surface, and maybe there's an additional parking spot that's arranged there. Maybe there's some landscaping or trees or something put in the front.
I'm looking at this as, we haven't had one of these since the Pine Tree, Mary Ann mess. every so often.
Right.
This is kind of like that, the RC2 subdivisions that are sort of just hanging out there. And when someone comes in for this, and this is a good thing, the building's already built, it's not adding another car. It's not adding anything.
Correct.
It's just separating the ownership.
Exactly.
But cleaning it up and making it like R5 would be now, as best we can without burdening the applicant, I think is a good cleaning up easements. Let's say we already went through all that. But I definitely think we need to kind of come up with something in the front that sort of memorializes what the parking's supposed to be. And I think that's the best we can ask. So that's all I have for this.
I'm just having a hard time with the parking and the photo, and seeing the site plan and the photo matching up. So I don't know what we can do.
It's a shared driveway.
And we could restrict a tertiary or not, or having a tertiary, not just for the top parking dictating what's allowable, but we could restrict not having one with the density.
Right. My suggestion is if the board's inclined to approve this, which, I think, again, we're not adding any new buildings or anything, that some sort of landscaping plan be developed for that area between the front part of the building and Cynthia, and that would be at least one of the conditions.
Okay, is it easy to formulate an idea about this, or should we refer to staff for the following: the landscape plan, the driveway material, restrict to tertiary, which lot should be the second dwelling? Would it be okay to make a motion to ask for staff recommendations to work with, or should we just put that on the table now?
I think that you could delegate the responsibility for the landscape plan to the staff. If you have specifics you want to include in that, you should let us know. I mean, I think that the way Joe has shown the parking is fine. It meets one of our modules for parking. I think there should be another space added, and I would again recommend that a proper apron be built behind those spaces, and that the material be specified, and that it be a hard material, like brick or a combination of materials that is attractive in front of that building from the road.
Has the language of the easement or the easement agreement been executed?
Yeah, it's recorded at the Registry of Deeds and has been for 10+ years, I think. It's not new.
Oh.
The new easement between the properties?
Yeah,
Or the
no,
shared
what you're
driveway?
using for the driveway, that easement for the
No,
driveway.
it doesn't exist yet because we're not ready to convey it, depending on if this is approved and the rear portion is conveyed, then it would be recorded and prepared in connection with that. Certainly staff, I believe it typically approves or would get a draft of it ahead of time, but certainly they usually approve that as part of the process.
Wouldn't we like to see the language of that easement?
You're speaking of the easement for P3, the parking spot P3, is that what you mean?
No, I mean, maybe I misunderstand. This easement here.
That easement exists already.
Yes.
That's been in existence for a long time.
Okay, is that part of the package? Was that easement in there?
I didn't see the reference, but I see it now on this particular plan where it's referenced in book 579. You see the reference up there, right there. Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
If I may, I just suggest, following up on Mr. Vorse's point, if it's possible to just indicate the apron would be a hard surface as was indicated versus a specific material, so that the applicant doesn't get stuck in between a specific material and then going to HDC, and
thank you.
There's a back and forth there. So if it was either pervious or hard surface or whatever language you all use. Thank you.
Yes, Judith.
again, the question about, thank you for the photograph, but how to see that and see this, it looks to me on the photograph that there'd be a real risk that on that shared driveway, you'd have, it's not very wide, if I'm reading that right, it's,
12 feet.
okay. I thought I
Dewey
said,
Road's 14.
well, it's the one higher up, I thought it was saying 9 feet, where it says for lot one, around the corner and over to the left, where it says nine, is that
there.
9 feet?
This is 9 feet for the parking space. the one
Right,
that Joe's
but
showing.
what I'm wondering about is, that looks, especially if that's a shared driveway with two different ownerships, it seems to me like there's a real risk that people will use that driveway for parking, and that you're likely to have disputes arising out of that. Am I reading that correctly?
Well, I think the parking, is fairly tight here. The 9 by 20 is a legal parking spot. It looks to me like they're parking there now.
That's my understanding.
Yes. Okay. So, I think the
But-
park.
I'm sorry, but which lot does that parking go with?
The front house.
This one goes to this one.
Yep.
For lot one.
Okay, sorry, thanks.
Are we a little more clear? Of what just to summarize what I have for notes, or getting a landscaping plan approved, or working with the staff for that, maybe putting in, as Stephen suggested, a driveway material to be hard surface, restrict a tertiary, and identify, well, I'm guessing the smaller of the two buildings, the back to be the second dwelling. And then also to have the new easement recorded with the completion of the special permit. Is that sort of correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hard surface apron was the only.
Yeah.
Okay. Would anyone like to make that motion with those notes?
I'll make the motion with those notes.
Okay, there has
Second.
been a motion made
Second.
and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
I'd like to explain.
Sure.
Okay. I'm voting no simply because before I would vote yes, I would want to see the language of the existing right-of-way or easement to make sure that there aren't conditions that might be applicable that would sometime in the future. I mean, if for any reason you don't have that easement, you don't have access to the lot. So pending that,
With this
subject to
back,
that, not doing that, I will vote no.
Noted.
If you want to vote on it tonight.
Let the record be known, we did vote, and it was approved 4-1.
And the tertiary was in there too.
Yes, it
not-
was.
Okay. I had it written down, but I wasn't sure if you said it.
We did.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you. 7818, Brian McDonald, trustee, 9 and 11 Cottage Ave, and 9 Grand Ave, Wisconsin. Representing the applicant.
For the applicant, for the record, Attorney Arthur Reed. Here with me is the architect for the project, Elizabeth Churchill, who is right now distributing some materials for your observation. This is a situation in which the planning board had approved a secondary dwelling on the site, and in the course of construction, decisions were made to move the location of the secondary dwelling from where it was originally shown, and also to move the driveway to the other side of the lot, the main driveway to serve the property. And they went back to the HDC to get all of that approved. But didn't realize, as Elizabeth will tell you, that it was necessary to also go back and have the secondary dwelling approval modified. Furthermore, what we have here, and is what's shown on that picture, is the beginning stub of the original driveway that came into the property, which was eliminated beyond the point that you see there, with a new driveway being put in instead off to the right of where you're looking at it. The result of that is that we're before the planning board, in addition to modification of the second dwelling approval, to request a special permit for there to be 2 driveway entrances on the site. And with that, I'll turn it over to Elizabeth to explain the history and what happened.
So this original house and driveway, which you see on that first sheet, was built in 1989. We came back in 2015 to renovate the house and to add a secondary dwelling. And pretty early into the project, we realized that the original driveway, which you see on that first sheet, really all the headlights were going to shine right into the secondary dwelling. So we decided to move it over. We got approval for that, took it to the HTC, and the owner also wanted to create a little bit more space between the house and the secondary dwelling. So I think that was moved probably 15 feet towards Cottage Avenue. And then construction went on for probably, I would say, 15, 16, probably 14 months maybe. During that time, the old driveway entrance, which was now cut off, probably about 20 feet deep, was used by one subcontractor a day for parking. And the owners saw that after many site visits and got the idea, why can't we have a parking space there? So I just want to impress upon the board that this really evolved very organically. It was not meant to be deceptive in any way. And they just saw, wow, this is a great place for parking. So we went back to the HDC, and HDC approved it, and that was just an oversight that we didn't come back to you.
Okay. Anything from staff?
It's a big lot.
Mr. Chairman, could we go back to showing the actual location? I know one part of our bylaw requires that a driveway can't be 25 feet from an intersection, and I'm just wondering if it looks to me like that is actually closer. Do you know the
I think
dimension?
this was approved.
I'm
Yeah,
saying the original driveway.
Almost looks like it's 15.
Yeah, I'm talking about that one.
This is 15, and this is 24.
Right, because it scales out. If you look at the scale for the 15 feet,
It almost looks
it looks to me like it's within 25 feet.
Yeah.
It is.
There is quite a bit of grass on the other side of that property line before you get to Grand Avenue. There's all the summer house people parked there.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, is there a shoulder on that side of Grand? then?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, quite wide.
Okay.
Full parking space width.
Any comments from the board before I open it? Oh, we can come back.
Yeah, no,
Okay, it's a public hearing. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this? No? If not?
They're not here for this. Maybe just a couple. I don't want to think we should. Motion to close the public hearing. Sorry.
Okay.
Ready to
Second.
talk now.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Andrew, the last time we had one of these was Green Lane, as I recall.
Mhm.
I think. They're always on streets that are unique, not heavily traveled. To me, this adds more than subtracts. I mean, I know this property. I remember when they built this house. It's a huge lot because they decided they wanted to keep it huge. It's just an odd situation. The only thing that have you looked at doing this on Grand? I mean, you probably have tried every imaginable thing.
Yeah, we talked about it at length. There's
Yeah.
a tremendous amount of summer house parking.
Yes,
on
no,
Grand.
I know.
And
Don't,
he did not want to open himself up to that.
to having more problems that he
Yeah.
doesn't need to have, yep. Can we waive the 25 feet, or is that something that we can't?
It's the same section of the bylaw, so if the board is inclined to grant this, I would just suggest you do that. You include that as part of
And
your
what
waiver.
about the
so-
second curb cut application?
That's what they're here for. So you
yeah.
have to make the
Okay.
same
That's the
finding
second-
under both.
all right. Okay.
Just
Well,
for-
I think I don't have an issue with it.
It's been in existence since 2016. It doesn't have any significant adverse effect on the scenic or historical integrity. Aside from the extra 10 feet with the 25 feet around the intersection, I don't have an issue with this. Fritz, did you have any concern other than the obvious?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do with the second, simply because, it was put there, and then somebody decides later on that they'd like to have an extra parking space. When it's a second curb cut right next to the other one, I would not approve.
Matt?
Still feel that it's okay.
Mr. Chairman, and
So many
I'm,
nuances.
since this is a
Yes,
special
sir.
permit, you're going to appoint.
Activate. Okay. Ludor, next in line. Okay, anything to comment, Ludor?
I think these situations are all unique, they're all case by case.
Yes, Judith.
I appreciate the aesthetics here, but I'm wondering, in light of the closeness to the corner, whether there's any possibility that the point at which the driveway connects to Cottage Avenue could be shifted. I guess that would be to the west, up closer, tighter to the parking spot, so that in effect the parking spot's there, but the driveway comes. You've got like a double wide of parking, and then the driveway continues, so that it's really only one curb cut and it's avoiding the corner.
My response to that is, this is nestled in the village. This is a very pedestrian street, really. And if we're pushing this driveway entrance further over to the west, I have a feeling that this is going to look more massive and too close, to the other one. I mean, even though I tried really hard to not do Belgian block, but to do Belgian block with grass. So this has a very green sort of feel to it, this entrance. And there's almost no traffic at all on this street. Very little traffic on Grand Avenue. The only real traffic on a daily basis on Grand Avenue is the Cisco trucks going straight down Grand to Laurel and just going straight, backing right up to the summer house. But we're trying to keep this, village feeling, and you really don't even notice this house. It's so set back, it's hedges, you can't see either one of these buildings. And it has a very sort of cottagey, Sconset feel right now.
Yeah, it seems to me that if you put the two driveways right next to each other, or basically make the other parking space an adjunct at the side of the other driveway, it's going to look awfully cavernous as you approach it, and it's going to be much more obtrusive and I think not scenically attractive.
And has the HDC reviewed this? Now,
Everything's been
they
approved.
approved it
Yes.
as you've changed it?
There was absolutely no opposition.
Can I ask one question? Elizabeth, how many square feet is this lot?
The lot?
Yeah, just, I want to just,
There's 3 lots.
I know, I know. Just
Well,
how many
really,
square
two
feet of
lots now,
dirt
because
is
we
this?
merged-
They merged.
This
We
is almost an
merged
acre.
two lots together.
Okay, this is in R1, SR1. There could have been, how many lots could have been here? A and R.
Plenty.
Right. We have one house and a second, one property owner. There isn't any way they're gonna subdivide again. They'd have to blow up everything you've drawn 100 times. I see this as reducing density. There could have been curb cuts by right on Grand Ave.
Right.
I mean, I'm just, sometimes, I've said this for years, these weird second curb cut things are the hardest decisions sometimes. They're all unique. I'll never forget the Jeep on North Mill Street, which had to take the tire off the back to fit. I don't know what else to say. I don't see a problem.
Anyone else care to comment? Okay. Anyone care to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the second curb cut and the waiver on the 25 feet.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed?
No.
4-1, motion is approved.
You also need to take a vote on the
On the second
modification.
dwelling.
of the second
Yes,
dwelling,
modification
right.
for the second dwelling.
Is that a second vote? Make a
That-
motion to approve that modification.
And I think Lee Dara can't vote on that one because that's
It's not a special permit.
not special permit.
Yep.
Sorry.
We
You're
appreciate your vote anytime.
Motion's been made. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes 3-1.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, 79-18, David Butler, 8 Salrose Road. Anyone here for the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick Bodette for the applicant, David Butler. Mr. Butler is here this evening, as is Arthur Gasparo, who prepared the plan on Mr. Butler's behalf. The property is 8 Salrose Road. It's located in the RC2 zoning district. It is an oversized lot at 9,800 square feet roughly in a 5,000 square foot district. The current uses, it's currently improved with a single-family dwelling occupied by Mr. Butler and his contractor shop, which is a shop used to fabricate stone pieces for countertops. All of these uses were approved in various special permits over the years for contractor shops, including the special permit in 2009, which allowed 2 driveway accesses on the lot. The only thing we're really asking for, we're not proposing any change uses at all. The only thing we're seeking to change here is a reconfiguration of the parking on site and some of the screening. What we'd like to do is move the current hedge on site back 7 or 8 feet to create the spaces you see in the front of the lot, which would allow those parking spaces to be perpendicular to Salrose Road and to allow the applicant to back his truck in and out off of Salrose. We're proposing to keep that 12.5-foot driveway access that you see there. And we also are proposing to screen keep all of the commercial uses screened from the residential uses as they are today. We did ask for 1 waiver to the extent we need it. You'll notice that we do have that 12.5-foot driveway access. We're proposing an apron through all of that and the parking spaces as they connect to Salrose Road. So to the extent you consider that to be 1 driveway access, it doesn't meet the maximum width requirement of 30 feet. It would be 48 feet. So to the extent you deem that to actually be the 1 driveway access, I guess we'd need a waiver for that. And that's about it. We're not, again, like I said, we're not proposing any other changes to the site. And I can hopefully answer any questions you have.
Okay, board?
I read through the history of all of the various appeals and zoning board action. And I just have a question. Back in 1995, it appears that the zoning board approved this for a carpentry shop of roughly 1,400 square feet, a first floor warehouse of 800 square feet, and a second floor office of 480 square feet. And then, or a residential unit for the second floor of the building on the left.
Sam Hills.
In 2008, then it goes forward and it says that the application talks, at that time, talks about there being a shop and a single-family dwelling. And now there's, in your letter, I think it's the letter, talks about an 804 square foot, 1.5 story, single-family dwelling. So was there at some point a change in the zoning?
Not that I'm aware
Still
of.
RC2.
I don't.
No.
I guess I don't understand
I don't mean
your
the
question.
permitted use.
No, I
At
mean,
what point was
single-family
it-
homes have always been a permitted use in that
But
district.
this was approved as a special permit for a second floor dwelling on the
Right, the
second.
commercial uses are what were approved in that special permit, right? The person didn't have to come in for any dwelling unit whenever they came in 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So the only thing they were asking for is the right to use a contractor shop, because that's always been a special permit use in the RC. So, and then to change it to a single-family dwelling doesn't require any relief, because it's allowed to have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we're really looking at is if, for the 76 wide apron.
Yeah.
And the 12 and a half foot driveway access.
Right, 48 foot what, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Any comments from the board before I open it up to the general? No, it is a public hearing. Anyone in the audience wish to speak? Hearing none.
Motion to close.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, any other further comment?
I just would like to make one comment. I would like to commend the addition of those 4 parking spaces, as I believe it will get a lot of their employee traffic off the side of the road where it currently parks all along that Songros area.
Thank you, that's part of the intent.
Yeah.
Fritz, anything else?
No.
No?
Any improvement to RC2 existing is a good thing. That's how I see it.
Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application. The change.
Leslie, is there any other terminology we need to add to that motion for the driveway with that
You need to
waiver
make-
for the 12 and a half feet?
No, you need to make the same finding about it not being adverse to
Adversely,
sound traffic,
right.
or safety considerations.
Yep.
It doesn't affect the scenic or historic integrity of the neighborhood.
Make that's part of my motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, it passes 4-0.
Thank you very much.
You know what? Did we?
This is a special, right?
I thought that one was
Was this not a major modification?
think the
Is that why?
previous-
Did we need to
an
activate?
amendment to previous.
You
Yeah.
could have, but you didn't, and you only
It's
needed
okay,
4
right?
Yeah.
in favor.
Is that
so,
okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
It's the only mistake you've made today, John. That's pretty good.
I was really,
It's 7:40, and Mookie Betts won the MVP.
Wow.
So we're all set.
Okay, well, moving on. 80-18-5 Sherburne Turnpike. Anyone here for the applicant? Jesse,
Back again.
you're next, Cam.
Jesse Bresci for the applicant. We're just requesting that it be continued to December.
Okay,
So-
anyone?
Motion to continue.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 1818, Stephen Welch.
Right. So this one you're up, right? Yeah.
For what? What am I up for?
Notification.
Do we need
This
to-
is not, is,
8118?
Leslie, is this a special permit granted
It is a modification to a special permit.
Do we need to
And you can
assign?
activate an alternate, yes.
Okay. Cam, welcome.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
So you did extra well. Everybody get to participate? No, no fights. This is good.
Night
Good
is
evening.
still young.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Stephen Welch, owner applicant. What you have before you is actually a series of kind of cleanups, special permits, which I'll get into in a moment. But the initial is to allow an additional bedroom on a lot with an approved tertiary dwelling. Under the circumstances in the R10 district, 8 bedrooms are allowed by right with the tertiary approval. By formula, this, I guess by way of a little bit of background, this is an oversized lot. Holly, it's,
Yeah, it's not allowing me to open it. I don't know what to tell you. It's
Tired.
I get yeah. I don't know. Sorry, I'm having
okay, because there were the black line revisions were on there. I guess just pull up what you have and I'll go with that.
there it is.
The black lines, the black line revisions are very minor. It's grammatical and
There
kind
it
of
is.
technical stuff.
Is it?
So if you were to go to the image, I guess the locus, or the site plan would be good. That's for the driveway access, so it will be, do you have those separate?
All right. So which one you want? This one?
Tertiary dwelling? No, that's the approval. So the one that's labeled SP 8118?
This one.
Yeah.
That's what I opened.
Okay, sorry, my apologies. So I kind of lost my train of thought here, but the tertiary dwelling is labeled, it's the center structure. It's within an existing structure. The lot is rather uniquely shaped. It has quite a bit of frontage along Waydale Road. Shown is the existing driveway with parking. That's more than adequate for the number of bedrooms on the lot with 9 bedrooms. The formula for a lot in the R10 district is 1 bedroom per 1,400, subject to the max of 8 bedrooms, unless there's a waiver. If you do the math, this works out to be, I believe it's 0.8, or it's 8.977 bedrooms. So I am asking for the waiver for the additional bedroom. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that this is actually a cleanup of a previous special permit, so it's a reissuance with a new permit number. The previous special permit was layered in with a secondary lot, a driveway access, and then modifications that resulted through the process of working through qualified family member ownership, covenant ownership, and so on and so forth, which we'll touch upon in a moment. So this is, again, tertiary dwelling, special permit, asking for an additional bedroom for a total of 9, and the 877 square feet of gross floor area is a previous approval. There's no other waivers required or requested. And if there's any questions, I might answer.
Anything? Yes, Cam.
I just have one question right off. I thought in this plan we had seen some different parking configuration. This looks like a fairly impossible parking situation. I mean, if everybody's home and you're the middle car,
Well,
how are you? No, but I'm just asking. Like,
Yeah.
didn't we see this in a different?
I'm sure we
Okay.
did.
So that's a subsequent. So what you have before you are 2 exhibits to utilize the existing or to utilize the driveway access special permit. And the reason for that is because with the existing building, the unique shape of the lot, the fire separation code, covenant, the process involved with the covenants, some of the construction work may be required with the existing parking in place before the secondary lot is created, and some may be required after the fact. So both exhibits are included as options for parking. However, I can tell you clearly the intent is not to be parking like that. It's just not, it's totally legal, but it's not practical.
Well, okay. So this,
Holly, could
this
you-
one, I'm just wondering,
Sorry.
this one has 2, 4, 6, this has 8 parking spaces and the other one has 6, correct?
No. Holly, if you would flip down, there's 2 parking
Oh,
spaces
off
in the
to
upper
the
corner.
side.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then those,
I have you
these are
there.
designed so that
Okay.
for more of a quality of life and a presentation purposes, each of the dwellings would have their own parking. The only landscaping that is shown is the landscaping that would be required or has been offered as a restriction for screening, which will come up as we talk about the driveway access special permit.
Okay, so I'm correct to assume that the parking on the left goes with the left-hand house and parking on the right goes to the right-hand
Yes.
existing, okay. And those 2 go to the back side of that, all right. Thank you, I was just a bit
Sure.
confused by that
Andrew,
picture.
anything from staff?
No, Mr. Chairman, but in the interest of time, the major substantive issue for the board to discuss is the additional bedroom. That's really the only new thing here. And I would, once you reach a decision on that, I would just recommend that you approve the
special
rest of the application, which is recodifying and simplification. I've been over that with Mr. Welch already. And it's based on the relief that he's already obtained.
Okay. Anyone else before I open it? Hearing none. Anyone in the audience wish to speak? Public hearing? Hearing
Motion to
none.
close.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 4 to 1, 4 to 0. Any other further comment, discussion? No?
Adding.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion?
I just wanted to, you mentioned you were going to talk about qualified family member. Is there any more you wanted to say in terms of the rationale for the added bedroom or anything? I just couldn't tell if you were done with all 3 of these or if you were just taking a breath before
Through you.
we get 2 and 3.
Yes.
Sure. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman. The qualified family member is something that is kind of hopeful at this point. It hasn't gone through home rule for the act. If my brother is the qualified family member is in the secondary dwelling, he would have 3 bedrooms. He's my younger brother. I want to have 4. And there are more practical aspects to it than that, but there's no, the qualified family member is not something that's, it's unfortunately not something on the table at this point. So I guess it was just wishful thinking on my part.
And then, so you've spoken everything you want to say about this whole set of issues. So I just wanted to be sure we heard everything you wanted to tell us.
Yeah, I guess I would only say, through you again, Mr. Chairman, Director, Mr. Vorse is correct. This is basically, there are going to be 3 permits to address and clean up the previous permits and eliminate them so that it can go forward cleanly through the rest of the process.
Sure. Get past the first.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
one more to Mr. Vorse. So what is the standard for authorizing the additional bedrooms? Since he suggested we focus on that first.
In the past, where the board has recommended this, they've looked at the size of the lot, the availability of parking, the overall layout. Generally, it's been approved with an oversight, where there's an oversized lot. The standard, as Mr. Welch has outlined, is fairly small here. The overall standard, he's off by a few bits of square feet. So, it's a case-by-case issue where the board needs to look at the specific situation of the lot. So, and it's really the board's call.
Okay.
So,
Then I'd make a motion if it's in order to approve the additional fractional bedroom request and then to recodify the other driveway access. I take it that A1 is the item you're suggesting for the driveway access. Is that the version or?
Can we do that with one motion, Andrew?
yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
I just was
Exhibit A.
trying to be
Yeah.
sure which of the driveways you were actually requesting.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Each of the applications has its own driveway layout. So the
I see.
tertiary dwelling special permit has an Exhibit A and a B, which is the existing, and then what would be approved under the driveway access. special permit. The driveway access special permit has one layout, which would be the new, which includes removing the existing parking access and driveway. And then the secondary residential lot has, actually, the secondary residential lot is based upon a layout configuration, two options that were previously approved. The parking and access would be similar to what you see in front of you on the screen now.
Okay, then to try to restate the motion, it would be to approve the additional bedroom based on the findings as referenced Andrew's comments about it's being a fractional addition of the size and scale of the lot. Part 2 would be to approve the driveway access special permit as modified, and Part 3 would be to modify the special permit as to the secondary residential lot.
Very good. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? 4-0 unanimous. Approved. Thank you. Next one, 82-18 Anchor Inn, 66 Center Street. Anyone here for the applicant? Hello, Sarah.
Yes, good evening, Sarah Alger for the applicant. And I have the account manager here with me as well, in case you have any questions, Stacy McEachern. So this is an application for the Anchor Inn at 66 Center Street. As you may know, it was run by Ann and Charles Ballas for, it seemed like a very, 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 very long time, and they have retired and sold the inn and moved on, which we're sad about. But their special permit had a condition in it that required that there be no commercial use of the private dwelling space and that it be used solely by the owners or managers of the lodging house and not rented separately. And my clients aren't going to have a live-in manager or owner. They have a staff room which is used by a manager during the day and at night. So we don't need a full-on manager's apartment. This space has a living room, bedroom, and kitchen. It would be rented as a guest suite as part of the inn. When doing the parking calculations, so we're going from and I will say that we're not in the CDT. We are in the ROH, but we are within a quarter mile of the CDT. So under the definition of transient residential facilities, it's a use that's allowed now by special permit. In any event, it is a pre-existing non-conforming use. So it is a special permit that we're looking for. On the guest house, there are currently 11 rooms requiring 12 parking spaces. We'd be going to 12 rooms. That would generate 13 required parking spaces. The owner's dwelling unit required 1 parking space. That's now a room, so there's no parking space for that. There's no requirement for the staff room to have a parking space. And employees, we have 1 space for 3 employees at peak shift. So net, it's 14 spaces required, 14 spaces required now and before. We only have 2 parking spaces. You can see them on the map that you have up there. They're the 2 stacked spaces there. But no change in required parking. It's 14 as it's currently been used and 14 as we propose to use it.
Thank you. Anyone on the board wish to speak? Any concern?
I have no concerns. Now, before we go to the audience, even though probably no one cares about this one, Sarah, we've been through a lot, haven't we? I can't believe we still have to talk about this stuff. I mean, of course you don't have parking. Nobody has parking.
Right. No, we don't.
I didn't know this wasn't in the CDT by a whisker.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll just give a little background. I'll just go up the street to the, just for the new members, we go up the street to the music center thing, what used to be the laundry. There they were almost gonna tear out the lawn to put parking. Almost. Didn't happen. It got waived. And that's the reason that you waive parking downtown in the core district, because it's just, you just can't have parking. You might as well just tear the building down, because you can't do it. So, unfortunately, this area didn't get put in the CDT, but it certainly should be, so I certainly in favor of this request.
So
Yes, Cam.
sorry, I just have a couple of questions. More in reference to the apartment or the dwelling unit under consideration. How long have these inn owners owned inns on Nantucket?
The people who own it now?
Mm-hmm.
Spouses?
I would say 5 years? Oh, I thought.
Almost 3 years.
Okay, 3 years.
Okay, I'm just wondering, because in many of the inns that I have been in, as we know, housing for employees is hard to find. So it would seem that at some point, a manager maybe want to live on site in
They
order to
own
find someone.
2 other
Okay.
inns, and they own, I believe, 1,
So there's
2,
plenty of housing
3.
for employees,
I
et
think they own
cetera.
4 houses,
Mhm.
separate houses in addition to the inns where they house employees. They have a manager's house.
Will be.
That's fine. I was
Anyway,
just
yeah, it's
wondering
like 4 or
because
5
very often
houses that
something
they
like
own.
this is going to require staff, and the staff needs a place to live. So I hate to see the reduction of living space for guest space. But
Right.
if it's all covered, that's all good.
Yeah, I think they have an economy of scale because of the other 2 inns, so they're able to use like the same housekeeping people and that sort of thing.
Okay, it's a public hearing. I'd like to open it up to the audience. Anyone wishing to speak? No, hearing none. Anyone?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 0. This is a special permit, so I'd like to put Stephen on this. Any other further discussion, concerns?
Move to approve the requested modification.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? 5-0 in favor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Can we? Yeah. It's almost 8 o'clock. Can we take a 5-minute recess?
Sounds good.
Thank you. Yeah. Closing in though. It's not bad. Yes.
So, next one is Starlight,
Mhm.
which would be me.
Okay.
Currently work for the Greenland.
Wow.
Worst 2 decisions.
At the proximity, what I could do is, I can always bypass you and then put you in turn for the next one, if that makes it easier.
Well, I'm just not even sure if that's.
You know what, we can ask Andrew. I
Yeah,
don't think, and you don't have any financial relation or anything. Yeah.
Actually quit, so they're paying me for too much longer.
Okay.
Let me just check with them.
Yeah, why don't you, that would be good. Catherine? Sure. Yeah, for the meeting. Yeah, you want them signed tonight? If possible. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, just. I can touch it.
Okay,
No,
so
I didn't do
turns out
anything.
I'm up on Starlight.
Oh, okay. But I made sure when I started the meeting, to make sure I missed that red. Oh.
I'm giving my notice, so.
We're still being recorded.
Yeah, we're still being
Okay.
recorded.
I just want to make sure.
It's not a real issue at all.
I don't see, okay. I know we had it in the other meetings, it's just like, why is it?
But I can't, because
Yeah, I just keep on looking over, I'm like, I don't see a light, so I don't know if that's.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think barring that,
It's up to you if you want to, do you want to sit on it if it comes?
Fair, I mean, I don't think I could be fair on anything.
Well, you know what, they're not going to close the whole time anyway, so I have to say, you're just a little nervous.
Me too.
They're definitely not.
Well, that's fine, I will get with the but,
Oh, okay, yeah, because they won't be activating it.
One day I'm going to, so I better pay attention.
We're getting through it, let's just say that.
So, that's why we got the CDP.
Gary will sign it. Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you those.
What?
Three.
Can't. There's a reason why. Yeah, absolutely. If there's
We did that. No, but it was 4 Thank you.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, without doing it. Not at all.
Did you get the answer?
it's conflict, I won't be voting.
Okay, yeah.
And by the time we vote on it, I will quit, I mean, my last.
Okay.
My last. When's the meeting?
The next one?
Yeah.
December 10th.
My last day.
Oh.
Well, by then, you're definitely.
Yeah.
We have two, so it's up to you.
I mean,
Oh, okay.
I said I trust and agree with the minister. How long?
I just got a 25-year opinion.
Really?
Not to mention my 5 years on.
You know what, 1994, right? We were 1993. Yeah, I worked here in 94. Wow.
I could ask that.
What's
that?
You can sign it.
Is that appropriate?
Right here.
Oh, that's
Right here.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think you're going to be called.
Why don't we just skip me out? I mean, I just think it's a request.
They always
Because it doesn't matter. They do.
What I've been doing
It was literally rain right
It's so bad. I'm not going to close the public hearing on this one, so it's all being continued. Or if it
By the time you come to vote,
yeah.
Yeah, there's a good percentage there.
just by now. Growth.
On this one? My brother's bedroom joke to go over quite so well.
Did I? No, that was just to close the public hearing before I asked her to go on. Then it was 5-0. Then it was 5. Yeah.
Even now, I don't.
Thanks, Howard.
Now, if you had tens of thousands of dollars on your driveway and made it look all pretty,
Awesome.
it would be.
My driveway right now is a 47-foot wide tarred paved.
My house.
I'm so looking forward to it. Your house is what?
I mean, it's the same kind of thing. No one would approve my house if there was anything to approve.
Now, can you sign this, please? There's 3 of them, if you wouldn't mind.
Last
We
minute.
just want to make sure that everybody.
Okay.
Last minute.
I will be happy to, as long as it's okay. And should I put signed as acting chair, as a?
What's this for?
No, it shows.
What do we have, more stuff?
Medical marijuana. Okay, so we've got.
It's getting colder in here.
Already, but I need to do this and then.
Where's mine?
Medical marijuana.
Oh, no, I meant mine. No, I got mine. I didn't mean to be greedy about you.
Where did
this
this,
is
what's
the
this,
park.
where did this come from? Oh,
A letter.
on this email?
Oh, to sign?
It's double-sided too, by the way.
Oh, wait a minute, what is this for? Because I can't.
Playground.
I tried.
Playground?
Yeah, this is land bank, which is gonna be my new job, so I can't deal with this
There's
one.
only one thing that I
Wow.
can double-side, and that's when I stop for
Project
my
management.
notes.
Oh, that's so
because
cool.
if I
I'm
do,
glad you did that.
then I just.
I looked at it and I thought, I'm not ready to go. that type of thing. But it seemed like it would be a cool thing. I mean, good for you.
When I write the decision.
Consider conflicts.
So I guess it's scripture article.
Everything else I try to deal with.
Was this?
Oh,
okay, okay.
What is this relating to?
This, the med spa, the new location.
Okay.
So there is proximity.
Yeah.
There was a letter because of proximity to within.
Yep.
If you're on that, you might not want to go on that, so you might, if there's no conflict.
that
you
was
lose
used,
two other people.
you
Now,
find
you
the
can
people
ask the
who
Judy,
are
what are you
around.
thinking about the COLA?
I think I'm gonna stay away from both, just
Okay.
to be safe.
No problem. Thank you.
I'm so sorry to be useless.
Not at all.
No, those come up. That's
Is everyone
We did,
ready?
well, except for the special permit.
Okay, I guess we'll proceed with the meeting. Andrew, were you set? Okay. Next one up for discussion, 83-18 Cole Alley, 3A North Union Street. Anyone here for the applicant? Hi, Stephen.
Mr. Chairman, Stephen Cohen for the applicant, and some of my clients are here with me to answer questions. You guys don't actually have to stand there. You can. Yeah, no, you can, but they're here to answer questions. So I think you're probably all familiar with the Starlight, which is currently a live music and movie theater venue and restaurant and bar, or at least was until it fell out of successful business and then since closed, unfortunately. But my clients have a vision for the Starlight that I think will be a great boon to the town for a year-round business that will provide a live music venue and year-round restaurants for the community. The intent is to essentially renovate the entire structure. Right now, there's the restaurant area, there's a patio that has live music, there's the movie theater music area, and then upstairs there's a office space that is used as an apartment, although I think it questionably qualifies as one. The intent is to turn the upstairs space into cold storage and office space and a prep kitchen, and then downstairs there would be an actual cooking kitchen and seating, flexible seating with a bar. And then the movie theater space would become the music venue and or restaurant area. It would be designed to be flexible. The patio would essentially remain the same in its current configuration. The building would not change very much on the exterior, except that we do some improvements for handicap access and to improve the current access. The stairs aren't up to code and those kind of things. And some of the doors would be converted to windows and moved around a little bit. The alleyway itself is currently a public road or public alley, and it's used for various storage by the commercial businesses that are there, as well as the DPW stores a bunch of stuff there in the winter. We would anticipate that those uses would continue in that way, although we'd certainly like to see it cleaned up a bit. It's a little scary over there, actually. The restaurant or venue would be up to 160 seats and would have year-round uses. The intent is to have operations that would be permitted as 7 a.m. till 1 a.m., but with the idea that there would be essentially a lunch and dinner service and not necessarily breakfast, but that we would want to retain that opportunity or retain the ability to do breakfast if the market suggested that would be successful. And it might be that it would be maybe just Sunday brunch or something like that. There is a takeout counter within the facility, but there's not a takeout window. If you go to the juice bar, there's that window where you can just come and get takeout. We wouldn't have something like that. It would be like when you go into Backyard Barbecue, they have a bar and then they have a window where you could just pick up food to go. So there's no takeout service. It's really just to-go food that people would call in orders for. The intent is to have the facility be as good or better than what's there now. And frankly, what's there now is practically falling apart and is set up in a way that you would never want it to be. There's very little sound mitigation within the current restaurant area, although the current movie theater area is extremely well sound mitigated, both to prevent sound going in and out for obvious reasons. And the intent would be to substantially upgrade the entire structure so that we'd have really good sound mitigation inside to prevent outside sound from coming in and inside sound from going out, as well as to redesign the speaker systems to more directly, to be able to better control the sound and to have it more directed away from the street. Right now, for example, the speakers that are on the patio, there's permit for live music on the patio where you have amplified sound there, and the speakers are just kind of mounted on the roof and they point out into the street, which is not necessarily the best neighborly way to do it. So we would redesign that so that it would be more directed and more mitigated. And I'm happy to take questions. So I should say also that we have a sound engineer that is working on both the sound plan and the sound mitigation plan, because the way you get sound mitigation is part of a good sound plan. So we would intend to submit that for what we anticipate would be a second hearing. And I think the board will appreciate and learn a lot from that, but I don't have it available today.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions at this point from the board? Yes, Judy.
I wonder if you could just comment, I can't remember where it was, but there was information about occupancy of the various spaces. It looked like it netted out to be roughly the way it had been previously. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no net increase in the size of the building.
No.
And there's no net increase in the uses. In fact, we're really just catching up with what had been permitted before. If you look at the relief that was requested, it's a little funny. The old permit and the COI haven't matched since the last relief was granted, I think in 2005. So one of the things we're doing now is trying to make them match.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Yeah.
I'll just say a couple things.
Sure.
And I have no issues with this. This is a huge improvement. There's no issues with loading zone stuff. The trucks, there's already a curb cut that was there from whenever that works good for them. You're right about the alley. It's one of those things you kind of leave alone, clean it up, but don't do too much beyond that. This is good. I just want to ask one question though.
Sure.
When do you think you're going to have this done?
So,
this isn't going to open Daffodil or something like that, is it?
I think for the summer of
You think?
19, yeah. So Matt McEachern is the architect who's working on it, and Matt smartly came up with a two-step plan where we could do some interior renovations that don't trigger this kind of permitting,
Yeah.
but then in order to finish the job, we need this permit.
Right.
So that gives us a head start.
Okay, good. So you
Any
got
other
a plan.
Comments from the board before we open it? It's a public hearing. Anyone wish to speak?
Eric McKechnie, 6 South Water. I have a couple of questions for the applicants. One, is there going to be any access in Cole Alley to the public? Are they going to be entering or exiting on Cole Alley?
Steve?
Yeah, the answer is no. There's no goal, there's no intent to have queuing or public access that way, but there's certainly fire exits on that side.
Okay.
And I think like the trash would go out that way and those kind of things.
Is there going to be live entertainment on the patio?
Similar to what is currently there, yes.
There's nothing currently there.
Well, before the business closed,
right time.
they had an entertainment permit to do live entertainment there, and historically that's been in the place for years.
Okay, and how late at night would that live entertainment be?
Well, the current permit, like all entertainment permits, I believe goes till 1 o'clock. Is that right? Yeah, 1 o'clock. That doesn't mean they would necessarily play that late, but that's what historically has been in place.
Okay, and you're planning on having this done by the summertime?
That's the goal.
Okay. Is there at any point, are you going to be blocking off Cambridge Street?
You mean like the flea market?
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, could you stand
Yeah,
up
you have
and
to get up,
uh,
Callie.
give your name and address to the board?
Callie Keever.
An address.
What?
Address?
Oh, what?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Your address.
Oh, 15 Margaret's Way.
Thank you.
Okay. We're not sure is the answer. I asked the other day, and it looked like Cambridge Street might not have to be blocked off at all, but certainly probably the side of North Union, right beside the Murrays for water access. But we just don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if Cambridge Street has to be blocked off, owning a business which is adjacent to Cambridge Street, I'd be concerned about when it would be blocked off, whether it be after Memorial Day, before Memorial Day. That could be very important to us.
Yeah, there would be no long-term closures. It would all
Could you
be-
please address,
I
and state your
apologize.
name?
Clinton Terry, 5 Trotters Lane.
Thank you.
There would be no long-term closures. They might be single-day use, which would all be applied for through the town and approved therefore. So.
Okay.
Right. We wouldn't be able to do that without a road closing permit from the select board.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm Lisa Rance McKechnie, Eric's wife, also live at 6 South Water Street. We submitted to the board a list of questions, specific questions regarding Cole Alley for the new restaurant opening. And I don't have the list in front of me, but I would like each of those questions answered by
The attorney.
by the
Sure.
attorney.
I have that list. I'm happy to answer them.
Could we go through the entire list? I would
Sure,
love that.
if the board wants us to.
Please.
Okay.
We'll satisfy the question.
So what are
Yeah.
the hours was the first question. And again, the hours would be 7 to 1 with the idea that it would be lunch and dinner and then late night, which I think is consistent with what was there.
Excuse me, no, that's not consistent with what was there. The Starlight wasn't open at 7 in the morning.
No,
It was
no, yeah.
open for lunch and for dinner.
Right. And,
Not
and,
breakfast.
And the
Sorry,
intent.
could you address the
I'm sorry.
the chair?
I don't
Instead of
believe
the back
Starlight
and
was
forth.
open for breakfast. It was open for lunch and dinner,
Right.
correct?
Right. So we're seeking a permit again that we would be able to do breakfast, but the intent is not to, certainly not to start with.
Okay.
So
I feel it's also a multifunction space, so in order to do a breakfast of some sort, maybe not to the public as a special event, as a rental, we are trying to not limit the hours. We say we open at 11 and we were able to book some kind of breakfast, then would that therefore would we be able to do that? The existing license says 7 to 1, so it's just kind of fitting into that. That's not our intent, but we can't limit ourselves in this early stage.
yeah, I mean, I think it's common for restaurants to have permits that allow them, even if they don't open for lunch, their permits allow for it.
Yeah.
So the next question was, will music be played inside and on the patio? And the answer is yes, which is currently the case. And what time would that be? And the answer would be under the entertainment permit, we would be seeking till 1 o'clock, which is the standard permit. The separate entrance and exit for takeout, and the answer is no. It would just be you would go into the restaurant and there would be an area where you would pick it up. Are there speakers that would be inside the building projecting sound outside? The answer is no. There would be no. There would be speakers exterior for the patio, but there's no reason to blast music through. And in fact, the building will have a substantial HVAC improvement, including air conditioning, which will enable, keeping the building closed when there's entertainment going on, which is typically a condition that you would put in place. The sound system in the building, is it going to be near a window or a door? The answer is no. The system is being redesigned. Sound doesn't respect windows and doors, but that we're certainly not putting it next to windows and doors. And again, we will submit to you a sound design and sound mitigation plan from the engineer, who's more, better at addressing that than I am. The trash will be located in the alley where it currently is. Hours again, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I think I answered that. Is there late night takeout? I mean, when would the kitchen close?
Probably the same, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. So potentially late night food. I think that's, more likely seasonal too. And I think that was all of your questions, Lisa.
Okay, I mean, do all restaurants, do they get a permit to serve until 1 o'clock in the morning? And does music get allowed to play until 1 o'clock in the morning outside?
Special permit.
I mean, is that a special permit? Yeah, I don't remember.
Staff will answer.
I thought it was 10.
Staff will answer that.
The board can put conditions that are different from the entertainment license, and the more restrictive condition will rule.
Yeah.
So,
Right. So the bylaw that she's talking about is till 10 o'clock, but the entertainment license overrides that. But then your permit can be more restrictive. I do want to note that this area is essentially the core of the commercial district of the downtown, and not really a residential area, although there are some residential units.
Yes.
But frankly, between the Tree Bar, which is an entirely open space that has music, and the back bar at 20 Federal, which is entirely open space that has music, and then other venues like
Men on Main.
Men on Main has music, but near here you've got the Rose and Crown, and you've got Charlie Noble, and those facilities are playing music in a facility that's not really designed, that are either have zero mitigation or not designed in the way that this is going to be. So we think that we'll be the best player among the people who already have entertainment licenses to do this and currently engage in it. I would also remind the board, which I think you know well, but I'll just say it for the public, which is that because we're coming in for an MCD, you are going to have the ability to reopen that hearing and to put more conditions in place. So if my clients are bad actors, they're going to get you have the ability to put conditions in place, and they'll suffer for it, or they'll be reined in for it. So there's a huge incentive for them to be good neighbors here, because these other facilities that are maybe not the best neighbors currently don't have an MCD where that could take place. So I think that'll be a good opportunity for the neighbors to be able to come in to you and say, put some rules in place because they're not complying, or they're not. We didn't see how bad it was going to be, or whatever.
Thank you. Lisa?
With the theater seats removed, your dining area is going to be in that, where the theater seats were?
Correct.
Okay, so that increases the amount of seats for dining is going to go from what was to what you guys are expecting to have. Is that 160, are you saying, for occupancy?
Yeah, that's total, but the building is designed to be flexible so that it could be all tables for a wedding, or it could be, no tables for an event, similar to, for example, the way the Dreamland is upstairs, how they have that space that's flex space. It would be like that. You might see all tables or no tables, depending on the event.
Okay. And are you guys asking for a lot of permits for parking for your staff and that sort of thing?
So the CDT district does not require parking, and we're not required to provide any, and we're not seeking any waivers for it. We do expect that the board would put in place a requirement to provide NERDA passes, which we would comply with. My clients are also already in the restaurant business and have recently acquired a 6-bedroom duplex in order to help with their employee housing. We're seeking an inclusionary housing waiver, which is standard waiver sought for MCDs, but we do intend to help provide some of our own summer housing.
So as far as the trash, which has been in the past put in that coal alleyway, with the increase in the amount of business you're doing and the rubbish that would be generated from the takeout, the increase in the occupancy of how many people are going to be dining, that's a lot more trash for that small space. Do you see that as a problem at all? I mean, as far as having enough room to put your trash on a nightly basis, I'm assuming the rubbish gets picked up every morning.
Yes, I mean, we would be required, we assume the board would be required, but just business would require a daily pickup of trash from a business like that. Clint, I don't know if you...
No, yeah, I own another restaurant a block away called the Nautilus. We have a lot of garbage. They come every morning. They take the bottles. It's a pretty seamless system, and so totally enclosed dumpsters and everything, recycling, mixed, all that, so sorted appropriately. And
I don't mean to be difficult, but we are one of the only residents that does live right across the street from where all of this is taking place. So it really affects us quite a bit.
Yeah,
So, I'm just asking a lot of questions because of that.
I think your concerns are legitimate. My clients want to be good neighbors,
Right.
and any kind of commercial business has an impact. There's trash, there's noise, there's lights, there's people, and totally legitimate questions to ask. And I think the planning board will put permits in place or conditions in place in the permit to try and mitigate that to the best extent.
The staff housing that you mentioned, is that in town or somewhere else?
It's at Mid-Island.
Mid-Island.
Yeah.
You satisfied?
If we have any other questions, I guess we'll
Great.
get them to you.
Sure. Stephen, is it your intent to continue this?
Yes, I mean, I assume that the board wants that kind of sound plan from us. And I guess my only other question, the other thing that we would intend to provide is an exterior landscaping / public beautification plan for the next meeting, and likely a lighting plan as well, in advance of the next meeting. So my question is, does the board have any other concerns or information that they'd like? Because we definitely would like to wrap up at the next meeting for timeline purposes.
Staff?
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that some sort of, I think the situation in Cole Alley has declined over time, and I think that the management of that trash is an important issue for that area. So I think some specifics would be helpful.
With the frequency of the pickup being daily?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly have conditions in place for the pickup, but also do an assessment of what kind of space was previously provided and what would be, and if it means that adding, extending the bins or whatever to make sure that there's sufficient enclosed trash space and recycling space, we can take a look at that and report back to you on it. The other thing I should note is that we'll be going to the select board for a license. There's currently all of the stairs on there and everywhere else in town are in the public alley, so we'll be seeking a license just to clean that up. I mean,
And
that has
handicap
nothing to do with-
access handicap access will continue to stay the same?
No, it's going to be improved, but where the patio is and where the front door is, which will bring it in the building instead of out in the sidewalk. So that actually will help. When we do that, it'll give us the opportunity to improve the sound mitigation there and keep people off the sidewalk too.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ken.
I just have one question. Now that we're talking about handicap, is it possible to have some kind of a curb cutty kind of a ramp or lower ramp? I know the step up right there is pretty tall for elderly and handicapped people, and I'm just wondering is it possible in that area to have something that makes it, I don't want to say wheelchair friendly, but something that would...
We have to comply with the Architectural Access Board rules because of the level of improvements that are being done. So there will be improvements on where the door is now, as well as on the Athenaeum side, to meet those codes. And frankly, the bathrooms, which currently are smaller than an airplane bathroom, will be not only handicap accessible but much more user friendly. And a third bathroom as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Right. And we're also adding sprinklers and other kinds of safety features.
I was just thinking for the folks who were just asking questions, or for anybody watching on video, how could you just predict in terms of what happens which month for the next couple of months, so they're aware of your kind of anticipated staging of seeking reviews and when we're likely to hear it again here?
Do you mean like a construction timeline?
Just the permitting process, if you don't mind, just so they understand what your intent is about how quickly you'll be moving.
So my hope is that we would have the MCD permit issue at the next planning board meeting, and we currently have a building permit pending for work that we want to start immediately, and then that would be amended in January or so when with the MCD permit to do additional work. In addition to that, there's an entertainment license that's going to be sought from the select board and the ABCC, entertainment license and a common vic license, which is for the food. We're getting waivers from the ABCC.
And that might be in January, or it might also be December.
Yeah, I think those filings would be for the December meeting, with the idea that most of those hearings would be either at the late December or January select board meeting.
Thank you. That's just helpful for everybody to understand the pace.
Yeah.
So, anyone else from the audience, public?
So move to continue the public hearing until the December planning board meeting?
Thank you.
Here a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Unanimous.
I think it's exciting to see that space having more revitalization downtown. I know that's something people who've been wishing for really appreciate what you're doing. So, and thank you for your careful consideration, how you answered people's questions and things like that. It's
Thank you.
Very well done.
Yeah, it's been a commercial space. Well, it's been this kind of commercial space since 1974. So we're excited to see it come back for another new life.
Thank you. We're continuing until December.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, 8418 Mass Medi Spa, 40 Old South Road.
So, Mr. Chairman, in the interest of your time and everybody else's, I'd like to request that the hearing be, Stephen Cohen for the applicant, I'd like to request that the hearing be continued to the December meeting without being opened. We're waiting on the select board to make a decision, and I don't know that it's worth getting into it. I would request that you ask the staff to have the town engineer do an assessment. We have provided the funds for that, the escrow funds and the engineering funds, but I don't think that you need the public hearing to request the staff do that.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
And motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Thank you.
opposed? Thank you, Stephen. Okay, 4-0 to continue. I guess we have,
I know, they've been sitting here all this time, but I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's hard, once you get started,
Yeah.
it's incomplete.
continue? Sorry. Should I open,
No, it's our fault.
should I have opened that
I
up?
don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't,
Maybe if you ask them, are they feeling compelled to say something?
well, we have, can we,
If it's closed,
Not open.
it's not open. Well, we have
No,
comments.
he asked to have it not opened
Yeah, continued.
and continue without open.
maybe just suggest if people want to put more in writing or whatever to.
Just glad they showed up.
I'm sorry for everyone that showed up for that last, to speak.
I just want to say, I think it's really unconscionable
Mm-hmm.
to have people sit at a meeting like this since 5 o'clock. My client flew up from Florida to be at this meeting. I understand that you've continued it, it's not your fault, but it is just exceptionally inconsiderate of the applicant to do this to an entire room full of people.
I'd also like to comment as a handicapped person who's been unmedicated so that I would be able and willing to speak at this. It's brutal sitting here for this long and then having it be continued without being able to make our comments.
Sorry.
I don't know what to say.
Well-
Suggest maybe for the next meeting, we at least put
Put it
at the front of the
first.
agenda.
top of the agenda.
That's a good idea. Apologies, if we, for the next meeting, December 10th, we will add it to the front of the meeting.
We can do that.
It just to offer one more comment. Again, I think all of us are sorry about that. We had the prior discussion about Act Natural. We really can't functionally do much with this because we don't know what the select board is going to tell us about procedures and things like that. So we really mean no disrespect at all to you. It just, I'm just sorry, it's just not functional to start down the road without having the information to do anything about what we're hearing or to answer questions.
Sorry. Chris.
Okay. Moving on. Other business. Zoning Board of Appeals, letter of response regarding Surfside Crossing.
Mr.
Andrew?
Chairman, so in your packet, the new plans, and I believe those were sent to you by email from Eleanor, and then they're in your packet, they were included as well. We ask you to start reviewing those. We will probably, we had to reschedule, unfortunately, our meeting originally scheduled on the 19th to the 20th due to a posting error. And we intend to review this jointly like we did the last time with the NPDC. So there's time before the ZBA meeting for them to consider our comments at that time. So please review the plans, and if you need any more information, let us know.
Could you just say the date of their next meeting? Isn't it November 27th? Are you anticipating we need to?
The ZBA
Yes.
meeting, yes.
So we would need to hold a special meeting or something to?
No, we'll be able to review it on the 19th, and they have a meeting, I believe it's the 27th, and they also have a meeting on December 5th. So there is adequate time for us to finalize it.
Any other discussion on that? Move to the warrant articles for 2019. An update?
So we did get, I know that Mr. Cohen had put in a request for, you may want to speak to that. There was an individual request for a map change on Lover's Lane. We've advised that particular individual that he should follow if he wants to pursue that, to follow a citizen format unless the board thinks they want to sponsor it. I don't have any other updates unless individual board members do.
Judith?
I just wanted to report, I brought a few extra copies if anybody's interested, that what I discussed previously about rental registration system is I've reformatted, restructured it, so it's asking for a study committee work group that would flesh out more details. If it's adopted in April, then it would give until, say, February of 2020 to have a report of a working group so that it could be addressed in April 2020 town meeting. So I had said I'd keep you advised, so I just wanted to do that. If anybody's interested, let me know as we walk out and I'll give you a copy.
Okay. Any other comment? Yes. Logan.
On the spreadsheet of articles that you all were provided, I think at the last meeting, there is a technical amendment article, which I haven't drafted yet. I've just been sort of keeping track of things that need to be corrected or adjusted for whatever reason. So you should have that at your December meeting for review.
Sounds like we should start at 3:00 in the afternoon for the December meeting at this point.
I actually anticipated.
I'm just happy we
11 or
do
12
5.
today.
It used to be 7.
So, at least. Hearing nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
10 seconds. Oh, we had that.
But
I think you were talking, yeah.
Okay.
So we didn't make that motion and haven't approved yet.
Which motion?
We were going to adjourn, but we
Oh.
did not get that passed.
Okay.
So the warrant articles, Stephen, you'd like to make a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I've submitted some emails to the staff, and I'm just trying to figure out if I should be drafting citizen articles, which are due by Monday, or if the planning board isn't going to be taking up some of these things, in which case I wouldn't necessarily need to, or create competing articles. It's not clear to me what articles you're putting forward, or what you think about the emails that the ones that I've submitted. And I'm happy to just do them all as citizen articles, but if we could have a shorter warrant.
I'm going to refer that to Andrew and Leslie if you have any particular ones that you can address that Stephen's looking at.
I think you sent several emails, so.
I did.
I don't know that I have them all in my mind, but the one about the rear lot subdivision.
Yeah.
What you're proposing is essentially the way the article was originally drafted
Yes.
and not approved. So I think that's something that you should submit as a citizen petition for the board to evaluate.
Okay.
Out of your technical amendments, some of those I think may be included in the article that I'm working on. So maybe we could just talk about that tomorrow.
Okay.
And then there was another one that you actually drafted, but I can't remember what that one was.
The tent one?
Yeah, I think that should be a citizen.
Okay. So I don't know. See, I think that's actually a pretty good planning board article, and I don't know if you want to take 2 seconds to talk about it or not.
Maybe they'll give it a positive recommendation during the public hearing.
As a citizen article? Okay. Maybe.
Maybe it'll get grouped.
Well, I would just have to say we wouldn't be, we haven't approved our own planning board articles, so I don't think we could say we're going to do something on the fly.
Yeah.
Because we're going to take some time to do that. But as you heard, some of us are doing citizen petitions because we know the planning board doesn't want to go into that subject matter.
Right.
So I know you've done it before, and I'm sure you can do it again.
That's fine. I appreciate that, and I'll check in with Leslie about some of the technical ones, and then I'll prepare the citizen articles for the other ones, and we'll go through that process. Thank you.
Great.
Are you? When are you going to be talking about your own zoning changes? Is that in December, or you're?
So we are in the process now. We've done a mailing out to property owners. We've received some comments back, and we're likely to recommend changes as part of that